I'm going to spend the next few weeks regaining my health and just being with loved ones and family, and it's a miracle. It really is for Jared Polis. He pardoned 35 people, and he gave clemency to 9, and I was one of the 9. And you know, you see the horrible media and the haters that don't go after murderers and people like that you know he chose to pardon, but they go after me. So
Apollo, I guess that you have a special guest with you this morning.
We do have a special guest, so I'll take this opportunity to announce that yes, Tina Peters has been released successfully and she is safe.
Hi, Steve.
Tina, tell us what's it like to be finally a free woman?
You know, Steve, I'm not even sure yet. After 606 days in prison, it's been quite the ordeal. But I really want to thank God for His faithfulness and getting me through it. And it's been, I think, probably for me, Steve, to impress upon every person out there how hard it is to lose your liberty, how easy it is to lose your liberty, but how hard it is to endure it. And, and I'm so grateful to the supporters out there that have stood with me. My close circle, Marcy, my best friend, who I called every day. After they kept putting me in the hole, she made me promise to call her in the morning and at night every day. So people that wanted to get me a message could always reach her. And of course, with Apollo and Jared and Barbara and, the other ones that have stood by me, and especially my attorneys. John Case has visited me almost every week while I was in prison. And then the financial support, I still have a fight to go. I still, even though Governor Polis reduced my sentence from 9 years to 4.5 years, I still have a fight to clear my name and bring out the truth of why they came after me the way they did. So it's still a long road. I'm going to spend the next few weeks regaining my health and just being with loved ones and family, and it's a miracle. It really is for Jared Polis. He pardoned 35 people, and he gave clemency to 9, and I was one of the 9. And you see the horrible media and the haters that don't go after murderers and people like that he chose to pardon, but they go after me. So there is a concern there for my well-being and my safety. But I'm just very, very grateful. Very grateful to all of you. Thank you, Steve, for standing through with me through all of this. And I just can't thank you enough. And of course, to
Tina, what we did was so easy. It was you that had to endure this. Tell people. Let's just get an update on your health. I mean, the two things, and Apollo and your attorneys and Marcy did such a great job at keeping people in the loop and making sure that we could have the information to do shows about you. But tell people, first off, the two things we had most concern about, besides how the injustice of it in your cause, was your health and your security. Tell us first, tell the audience about your health. Tell us, where do we really stand with that?
Well, I've developed a few things from being in prison. One of the things is, I've had some digestive issues, some acid reflux, some, things like that where, but if you can imagine the food there is, people ask me, they say, what do you want to do when you get out? And I said, I want a nice big thick steak and a nice green salad with avocado, tomatoes, cucumber. I hadn't had a tomato for almost 2 years. I'm just 4 months shy of being incarcerated for 2 years. And so things like that people will take for granted. Marcy went and bought me a Sonicare toothbrush. I've been using a toothbrush about that long for all this time, and the food in prison is horrible. I mean, it has sugar and salt, so a lot of people become sick. My A1C diabetes runs in my family, but I've always managed it well with my diet, and that has deteriorated that way with my blood sugar. Everything's either salt or sugar. You don't really have the proper nutrition that you need. So I'm going to be getting checked out by doctors, and I've got a lot of growth that came on my skin that in places where the sun don't shine. Yeah, right. And so I need to have that checked out. The water, there was concerns about the water. There was a dog program at the prison, which is now closed down, but they even, because there was so much lead in the water, they even gave the dogs filtered water, purified water. So there's things like that. I feel like I've aged, about 10 years is the way I feel. So I just need to take some time, regain my health, get back to the way I have always taken care of myself in the past, and then get back and get to work again.
That is an American badass. That is an American badass, son.
What a day it is, Patriots. What a day. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Feisty Diggs, episode 45. And we got, as always, one hell of a show in store for everybody today. And it is The Sun is Shining. Tina Peters has officially been released. Hey, what do you know? My prediction came true that she would be released before midterms. Rejoice, Patriots. And what do we got here? Hey, ladies. Plural. More than one.
Hello.
What have we got
came
here?
To gang up on you.
Yeah, I'm outnumbered. That's okay.
Yeah, outnumbered. It's the new show.
Yeah. Wow, huh? Tina Peters.
Yeah.
She has been released from prison.
Well, we knew she was supposed to be released today, and she did get released.
Yep.
But she said something quite interesting, don't you think, when she said, I got a long way to go?
Yep.
Clear my name?
Yep.
Because she does have legal avenues. You know that, right?
Yep.
She can appeal to the Colorado Supreme Court. But I think her biggest avenue is going to be in a federal court. Remember when, what's his name?
Blanche.
The judge?
No, not Blanche. God.
No, when the judge is violated, like he went after her so bad in the sentencing.
Well,
Judge Matthew Barrett.
That's why that got commuted.
Yes.
But we're talking about the trial itself and Jenna Greenwald, right?
Got it.
Jebba.
Yes.
Jebba.
And, yeah. So, but if fraud can be proven in the 2020, which I think they were absolutely doing, she has another set of avenues because then she can petition for a new trial based on the new evidence. And what does fraud do?
Vitiates all. If by all, I mean all.
So there's still a way to go. I don't know if she gets financial restitution, but she can go after all of those players civilly.
I hope they do. I'm tired of everybody suing. That like I get you have to sue the government. I get that, but technically we the taxpayers are still paying when I really wish there was an avenue that they could go after the people directly.
Well, that's why we need
Yes.
tort reform, right? We need to loser pays kind of thing.
Yes.
Which was in the original Obamacare bill and got stripped out before it passed the Senate.
Convenient.
So, yeah.
Tort is civil.
The whole idea of tort reform is very much needed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that. So Daily Caller says a conservative group is asking the federal government to criminally investigate Colorado officials for throwing 2020 election skeptic Tina Peters in prison. Shout out to Mike Drop Davis, which is the term that we dubbed him.
Who did Mike meet with? He met with the older guy on our defense team, remember?
Oh, Trump's buddy, Peter Tickton.
Tickton.
Yep.
That's why I think this is heading to a federal court. I think they're building, and I've been saying from that day, I think she's a material witness.
Yep, says the Article 3 project, Mike Davis, told the Department of Justice in a Monday letter obtained by the Daily Caller that...
Obtained,
yes.
Right?
Judge Matthew Barrett sentenced Peters to 9 years behind bars in 2024 on felonies and misdemeanors for sharing the data with political allies to investigate alleged election fraud. Were you going to say something there?
I have actually that link to that. Like, not, I mean, I have the actual Article 3 file thing that they're doing.
Oh.
Danielle sent it to me this morning. You remember my buddy that does State of Freedom podcast?
Yes.
Having Will Chamberlain on her show tomorrow. So she and I were communicating this morning, and she sent me this. I put it in the Zoom chat.
The honorable, the one that's to Harmeet Dillon.
The one that Mike Davis is talking about.
Yep. It says, on behalf of Article 3 Project, I write to urge an investigation of potential federal civil rights violation on Tina Peters, my spectacles, who just received a righteous and courageous commutation by Colorado. See, that's another angle to this. Jared Polis. Why did he do it, and why now? Why before midterms?
Pressure.
Yep.
All we'll do as they're told. I really believe this fits into the bigger story.
I have a feeling it's going to be, you're going to do what we say, or
exactly.
Put in an impossible position, I suppose.
Well, if you're facing crime that would give you 100 years, wouldn't 20 years be better?
Yeah.
Put in a consequential position.
Yeah, deprivation of rights under color of law. I've been saying we've
been talking about this forever.
From the first day I started streaming, I said color of law is what's going to be implemented in the near future.
Right. And that's where the motion for a new trial comes in.
Yep.
It also gives her another avenue, because with any information that comes out, it will then be used to substantiate or justify what they call a necessity defense, that she had to do this to protect greater harm.
Well, what wasn't, and I'll get to the shout outs. Good to see everybody in Rumble and Pilled World. We are also streaming on X, and I'll shout out everybody out in just a moment. And thank you for the gold pills and the likes and everything. But something that wasn't addressed at all, not even a little bit, in any of the hearings on Tina Peters was what? What wasn't addressed at all?
How about the guy that went into the server room?
How about election fraud, period?
Well, the third-party company that went in and wiped it.
All of that.
Exactly. But you've got a number of actions that took place. She was held accountable. Nobody else was.
Right. For everything unrelated to what she did in the first place and why she had to do it.
Which is why I think she has a necessity justification here.
This obfuscated from the issue at hand.
And I think it brings about the potential of a new trial. But in order to bring about that new trial, you're going to have to bring forward proof of the frauds that were committed. Which is where I think Tickton and Davis have been working together.
Mara, what were you going to say?
She's laughing. I'm sorry. Did I step on you? I didn't mean to.
No. So I remember we had the voter registration that was accessed by foreign governments. I know that happened in Arizona, Michigan. Did it also happen in Colorado?
It happened.
I was pretty sure it did, because the same people that prosecuted her let that go.
Right.
And to me, that would be a huge one to bring up.
And they let it go in Virginia and Pennsylvania.
And they destroyed all the information, all of it, right? They destroyed all the evidence.
They destroyed all of that evidence, which is never really destroyed, but okay.
Right, but it should prove the attempt to obstruct justice, which whether you effectively obstruct justice or not, I think that's irrelevant, but I don't know if the court will see it that way. So I think what
they got her for obstructing justice.
Yep. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
That's right.
Turn that back
Yes.
around.
So what Mike Davis is doing, I think, has really nothing to do with elections or election fraud or voter fraud, for that matter. And I think it's mostly addressing her treatment, right?
Mhm.
All right. Let's see. He says, rarely does an appellate court, all Democrat appointees, he emphasizes, vacate a sentence due to its profound concerns that a defendant was punished for having exercised a core constitutional right. Still, rarer is the case where, in commuting a sentence, a governor expresses the precise same concerns. This is particularly true when the governor is of the opposite political party, like Governor Polis, Democrat, is of Tina Peters, Republican. No one is above the law, including secretaries of state. Jeba. Secretaries of state. District attorneys. Soros, district attorneys. Attorneys generals
back
or
tides.
judges. Or tides,
USAID.
which
USAID.
which we are being confirmed today. Matter of fact, I think I put that in the Diggs folder. That
Yes, and I put in, because that wasn't the first time they came out with that.
about
back-
tides.
Last Tides and Rockefeller and
Yep.
USAID.
Yep.
Back in July of last year, they put out another 14-page letter with graphics that matches this 14-page letter they just released on Friday.
Ooh, pretty little illustrations. I don't know a thing about that.
No, they're flowcharts. They're actually quite ugly. But
I was going to say, they can make them sort of. I mean, nothing is like your slides.
Yeah, I was gonna say they should take a page out of Feisty's book.
I
The
know.
one the deck today is super pretty. It really is.
It is very pretty.
And we're gonna get into all of that and more. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah. I may have to. Sean is setting it up already that I will have to invade his news show tonight. You see
Great, we're
that?
going.
No, it's not an invasion if it's welcomed. Well, good to see everybody over in Rumble.
That's because you can't tell me no.
Well, that might be fair. Good to see everybody over in Pilled and Boyer. Good to see Ann Boyer as always. Just the truth. There's a new name, Sandoon. Welcome.
No, I think I've heard that one before.
Sandoon. Okay. Touched by Love. Who the heck is that Touched by Love?
It's some
account?
chick when she had a little bit of pink in her hair.
Yeah.
Old
Oh. Shout out to Mary
That's my
Bear.
original handle on Rumble.
Is it really?
Long before I was streaming. I just never bothered changing it. I was just like, whatever.
Good to see. Hey, what's up? I am Taylor, just sharing 7. And all the lurkers out there. Griggleman, Liberty Leeway, Laura Vogel, Mountain 17, GG. Hey, GG, Danishell, Buttons 1929. Welcome. Good to see everybody. And over on Pilled, there's Tamalam. Time for Tammy, Diddly Squat.
I love that name.
I do too.
I love that name.
Patriot drummer, and the lovely Marissa. Hope you're feeling better, Marissa. We just cherish Marissa and her modding abilities. Alicia, Alicia B. There's S. Jones 39. What's up, S. Jones? Good to see you, love. Just Fed Up. Hey, good to see you, Just Fed Up. Carrie Lake. Hallowed be thy name.
Neat.
It's spelled H be thy name, and I don't know if hallowed be
That's
thy
what it
name.
is.
I I like to say hallowed be thy name. Excuse me. My name is D. GG kicking it over there in Pilled as well as Rumble. And let's see, Pippa. Shout out to Pippa. Good to see you.
Ha.
And
that name.
let's see, we got Dixie is the first one out the gate to drop a pair of banger shades. Hey, thank you so much, Dixie. And Just Fed Up with a holy ship says, let's go. Wow, thank you so much, you guys. God bless you. Thank you for the support.
So now the pressure's on, Sean.
Let's get into it. What are we going to talk about today?
The pressure's
Let's do a
on.
game.
So you know that I've been doing this for years, right? You know that I've been studying.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
But you know I've been studying all kinds of things from domestic and geopolitical crises, through every little mishap that's happened, through going through the systematic stuff, banking, governance, and influence. One theme kept coming up, and that is the lack of accountability. And I don't mean accountability.
Nothing's happening? Is that what
no, because I don't mean the handcuffs accountability. That's reactive after something happens. I've complained about it for years. Many of us in DC who play in this system have complained about it. But actual accountability is hollow. And you see that over and over and over again. There's no accounting. There's no auditability. There's no scorecards even that are actually meaningful to prove that you're delivering what you say you're going to deliver. Then I read the Pope's encyclical. And he referenced, obviously, Pope Leo XIII's encyclical.
What is an encyclical for those who don't understand?
It's a white paper. It's where the Pope addresses an issue of today and they usually go through church history.
Memorandum of understanding sort of thing?
No, it's more of a white paper.
What's a white paper?
I knew you were
I
going
was
to go
about
there.
to say, give them another definition. Because I know of it in CIA terms, but
It's like a thesis
Okay. An
paper,
agenda.
right? If you're not so much an agenda. It's more of a thesis. This is my idea, and then supporting it.
aren't they usually like 50 to 100 pages? And that makes the difference why you refer to it as a thesis versus
Right.
Hmm.
or something.
Right,
question.
right. Because it is typically quite long.
And it's heavily documented and cited.
It's sourced, yes.
Oh, okay.
So he goes through church history, which all of them do, just about. Go through Catholic social teaching, which they do, all of them do just about. It always comes back to the common good, which every single encyclical since Pope Leo XIII has done. And so what he pointed out in his encyclical, again, was the lack of accountability. So I developed an entire deck to talk about that.
This ought to be interesting.
Using my research, culminating it with the encyclicals, even going back through historical perspectives where we've had warnings about this
Okay.
from all three sides of the triangle.
Warnings that if you continue further without
continue down this
accountability,
path,
this is going to be
right,
the end
We
result.
will come to an ungovernable position.
And
Okay.
that's the key, the accountability piece. Right on, Sean. That's
Yeah.
the key.
Okay. This is
So
gonna be interesting.
I will define accountability in its complete perspective, not just the handcuffs, which are important now, obviously, but you got to also fix it moving forward, and we need to do that. Now, Pope Leo focused on AI, but it could go for anything. Pope Leo XIII focused on the Industrial Revolution. You got another pope that focused on globalization, rogue capital. I mean, you can go down through the century, and every encyclical focused on the exact same thing, the lack of accountability.
So,
As my research lands on every single time.
so this is going to be interesting because I rarely, and I don't remember myself even addressing the different levels or types of accountability and the accountability that could be implemented to ensure that this shit doesn't happen in the future, right? Because
We're already watching it be implemented. What do you think the audits in all the states are?
Right, and you could make arrests, you could do perp walks and all that, but is that really going to ensure that this stuff doesn't happen into the future?
You have to build the ecosystem that looks for and prevents catastrophic events. What we've been led down is you've eroded all of the other pieces of accountability, the more proactive forms of accountability, to where all that's left is a reactive issue or a reactive arrest after a catastrophic event happens.
Wow. All right.
And that it does us no good, right? We may get our sacrificial lamb put in a slammer, but it doesn't fix the problem.
You can relate that to so many different things.
I was just going to say that.
Financial stuff to you could say Epstein.
Yep.
Does anybody think he was the only?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that in relation to Epstein.
Anybody thinking he's the only one?
Yeah.
Right.
doing whatever crime you currently think he did.
Yeah.
I'll just leave that hanging. But we had the guy in Canada, we've had the ones in Britain, we've heard of ones in Belgium.
Oh, Jean-Luc Brunel, Paul Nygaard. Yeah.
That was a whole different island and a whole different perpetrator
That's
that
right.
they took down at a different time. So yeah, it's always the sacrificial lamb. Everybody talks about it and then they just move along.
They make the public statement, the public splash, the public goes, okay, good, somebody got held accountable. We
Moving
move on. And
Yeah.
within a couple of years, you're starting that cycle all over again.
Oh, yes.
Bernie Madoff would be another.
Bernie Madoff is an excellent
Bernie
example.
Madoff with a lot of money, yeah.
Here we are talking about Bernie Madoff and $20 million,
are.
right? And yet we've got a Federal Reserve System that's taken trillions.
Wow. Sam Bankman-Fried's another one that comes to mind, right? Money laundering. We've seen the results of taking down USAID. What has that resulted in? More than what we initially thought. Look, the DNC has no money. No, they have negative money.
They have negative.
And then look
Obviously, something's changed, though, right? Because that foreign infusion
Certainly.
isn't happening.
Certainly, we've been talking about this ad nauseum about the cast of characters that our opposition. I'm reluctant to call them just Democrats, but we've seen the cast of characters that they've presented, and I mean, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. Graham Plattner, perfect example. And
Perfect.
I'm making a prediction right here, right now. By the way, just like I made about Tina, Graham Plattner, because it seems like he's whittling away. It seems like his days are numbered. I'm making the prediction that Janet Mills is going to enter the race again, by the way.
Yeah, they'll have to slide somebody else in,
Yep.
What do they do otherwise?
right?
To me, so this is another signal that,
But
going back to what you and I talked
aren't you
about.
noticing the weakness? And we've talked about it looks like they're intentionally destroying the party.
It's hard to conceptualize this, though. It's hard to conceptualize the
Look at the
entire
cast of
Democrat Party
character-
being destroyed.
Yeah.
That's hard to
But
imagine.
it happened with the Whigs to the Republicans.
We don't have a frame of reference, though. We have a
No, we don't
right.
know.
We can read a
But-
book about it, but
if you go look up what happened
Right.
between the Whigs and the Republicans,
Might be worth doing a quick show on that.
ooh,
is that
don't
your
think anybody
volunteering
really
or are you collaborating?
I'll collaborate on that one.
gotcha?
No, I wouldn't. But I mean, that's a topic most people don't know.
Don't understand the
Yeah.
full story of that.
Yeah.
We could
Because
look
it
at
feels
the-
like when you look at the cast of characters on the Dem ticket, frankly, they suck.
Well, and you could make the the Dems have a history of reinventing themselves. They did that
Yes.
on LBJ. They saw the success JFK was having, even though, the system killed him. But they glommed onto that and just reinvented the persona. The racism never went away.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was the whole narrative of, and then the parties flipped, which didn't happen.
Without that narrative, they would have been done a long time ago, I'd argue. And look at
Well,
Talafrico. There's another example.
I'll
Down in
submit-
Texas, of all places, we're going
I'll
to present
submit-
Talafrico, this guy
Right.
who wants to keep everybody from eating meat. Okay, good luck with that, pal.
I'll submit the Nixon coup gave them a second set of laws.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We could do an easy, well, it wouldn't be easy, but we could start with the Whigs and look at 3 or 4 major
End up at
things
Nixon.
in the
Yeah.
country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ready to do Watergate. I've got to finish the Weather Underground, and then I was going to talk to you about Watergate because I thought you might want to come on with me. And do
I do. You know I do. I do. That has been something that has been a part of my blood since it happened. I remember Watergate.
Watergate times 1,000.
Well, if you
regarding
understand,
Russiagate, right?
if you truly understand what happened in Watergate, you will no longer question what Watergate times 1,000 is.
Really?
S. Jones and I watched Murder in 1600 on Friday night. We're now doing a fun movie night just for the summer to enjoy ourselves. But we did Murder at 1600, and we were halfway through, and I'm like, oh my God, this is literally the Nixon coup.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what that
Yeah,
movie
I didn't get to watch that. I got to go back and watch that.
was.
Well, you opened my eyes to a different perspective regarding Kissinger.
Mm-hmm. And I've tried to do that along the way, because when you start digging in, get away from the noise, when you start peeling back and you start digging in, what you realize is that people's perspectives started to change. And it always happened when something big happened. It was like aha moments. Now, here's the part, because I don't believe zebras change their stripes. They refashion them. So for Kissinger, a good example, he still believed in a new world order. He just didn't like the way the new world order was going. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
It was going in a direction he didn't agree with. But he didn't change his stripe. He got a wake-up call, said, no, this is not what it should be. And he was lamenting over how it went off the rails more than this was a bad idea.
Oh.
So that's what I mean by you don't typically change your stripes. You kind of reform them, or you enlarge them, you evolve over time. But the underlying perspective of a new world order to bring about, quote, peace was still a part of who he was.
Yep.
And what he missed is the same thing everybody else is all pointing their fingers at. There's no panacea of solutions, right? Every culture, every country is different, but it always comes down to subversiveness and subjectiveness, right?
Yep.
If your plan requires that another country bend the knee, then your plan sucks. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah. And again, so speaking of accountability, what did we see last night take place? And I'm glad that we brought up the whole tides thing, and the NGOs, because we've been arguing that there needs to be something reform. And we're seeing the reform, the 990.
The Form 990, that's the form that NGOs have to fill out to show who their donors are.
Right, to reveal
which
their donors.
over the decades has been whittled away to where it's nothing.
Clarification on that. I know it goes into effect January
1st.
So
it's for next year's tax season.
So does that mean that they have to show that for their taxes of 26 when they're filing in 27?
Yes.
That's technically affecting
That's 20.
right now.
It's 26.
Oh,
yes.
that's a good question.
So it's already in effect, but they don't have to report on it until by March of next year.
They have to have all their crap in the row or turning in tax season in 27. So that's probably part of why they're bitching so badly right now.
Because they got caught with their pants down. Think about it. They had a whole quarter of doing business as usual, and now they got this, and they can't go back and fix those numbers.
So it's arguably not going to matter whether
You're not
lose
gonna
the
see
house.
it.
Say we lose the house, right?
They're still screwed.
They're still screwed.
They're screwed.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're
So
financially.
remember when Monica Crowley said
Yep.
Trump has put in a bunch of things that people don't know about.
Yep.
This was one of those things, and I've been bringing it up to you regularly because that is a lot bigger deal than you think.
Oh yeah.
The Hensley decision out of the Supreme Court, that's major. I mean, we thought the Chevron deference was big, which it was, but now holding individual contractors accountable, you can no longer claim, hey, the government made me do that.
Well, the other thing is NGOs are not supposed to be, or 501c3s are not supposed to be political, yet that's all we've seen is them be political.
Well, and it's not just the outward part, because you got under 501c4, you've got the education piece, so they can do some things. It's not just that part, the forward facing part. It's the fact that they were taking in all of this money. Nobody knew where the money was going because they didn't have to report on it. So it was an easy flow of foreign infusion of cash into campaigns. And then what do? They spend that money in grant-making efforts with their own foundations, right?
Yep.
And you can then watch that money spread across the web. We've been watching this for years. We see it happening. We know it's happening. We know what they're really doing behind the scenes. We're only just now starting to see concrete accountability come into play.
But you know what we didn't see for years is when there would be protests quote protests that we all know in the back of our minds and front and center that they're funded, sponsored by NGOs like the Tide Center, just to name one. And then we don't see police take action. But last night in
Look at
Newark,
what happened.
we did.
No, but did you see what really happened? The Newark police were told to stand down. The state police came in and took action, which means there had to have been a state of emergency issued by the governor. Now, go back to Charlottesville because Governor Northam got a phone call from the Oval Office. A state of emergency was put in place, and the state police went into Charlottesville as well.
So you saying the governor had to have stepped in New Jersey? Murphy, really?
There's no possible way for the state police to go in there. Same here with Northam.
The
a
fact
raging
that
stupid
this was,
Democrat.
yeah, but these were attacks against federal officers. This should have been federal, no?
Yeah, but the state police, yeah, he could have brought in the National Guard, but the state police responded. There's your hint.
So Murphy was put in an impossible position.
I think he got another phone call, just like Northam got in Charlottesville.
Because I saw Mark Wayne Mullen. He's addressing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Said just now, DHS Secretary Mullen confirms ICE arrested rioters who came all the way from Portland, Oregon, crossing state lines. You can't be.
Which is a
that
federal
makes
offense.
it federal, right?
Right.
To agitate
Not
leftists.
only that, remember you're on federal grounds, right?
Yep.
So that is a federal crime.
So-
but what's interesting is it wasn't the National Guard. 6 people arrested, 5 from out of state, right?
Wasn't there 20 arrested?
Well, the first news,
Oh.
the first arrest, there were 6, 5 were from out of state. So I'm looking at this from okay, so you're taking a state action with federal pressure. That's what it looks like to me.
I almost feel like there's an aspect to this that is forcing, it's almost encouraging us, we the people, to step up more too. And
Well, that's interesting because that's what my deck talks about.
oh, really? I didn't even, full disclosure, I didn't not know
No,
this.
you never open up. I send you the slides. You never even open
Because
them.
I want the element of surprise. Thank you, Mama Sheckert, by the way, for the can, Mama Shecks.
Definitely.
So what I meant by that is, well, we were told that class action lawsuits are powerful, right? And I've always taken issue with so-called protests, especially the paid ones, because it reduces the impact of genuine protests.
Optics.
Yeah.
Well,
you
it's
know?
the optics. It also forces people to stand down.
Well, I think it
Out of
violates our
Out of fear,
constitutional
you and
rights.
well, it does. Out of we lose our right to free speech because watching them and the fact that they tend to go violent, we tend to not join in,
Right.
even if we agree with the subject,
Right.
the topic of the protest.
So who can do it on our behalf? Who can hold people accountable on our behalf? This is technically, we outsource this to our elected leaders. But again, there's got to be a mode where we actually take action. And I suspect there's other methods that you're probably going to get into that suggest there's an element of what's going on today that is opening up a lane for us to actually take it back.
yes,
Because that's
exactly where we're at, which is why.
how do you combat that?
Which I think, Marion, you'll have to support that. But I think the deck is timely for that very reason.
Yes.
All right. Well, the share is all yours whenever
Are you
you're ready.
You're ready?
Are
Oh
you
my
kidding me?
goodness!
I was born ready.
Yeah, I am dumbfounded, guys. We're only a half hour into the show.
Mi casa su casa. It's like a saloon door here. You come
Right?
and go as you please.
So, like I said, this is a long arc for me. Years, literally years of research encompassed in all of what I'm about to show you. There's no videos. I'm just going to talk through them. And obviously, as usual, provide commentary as you see fit. But you should recognize my 3 sides of the triangle, right? You see that.
Okay,
You
yep.
recognize it.
Yep.
Very pretty.
I wouldn't have
And
if you didn't say anything, but yeah.
Well, there it is. Capital, culture, governance.
Okay.
You've seen it from the perspective from the Vatican deck, from the systems theory deck that I went through, where I showed that it's like a three-legged stool. The triangle can't stand if one goes out of balance. So quickly, the other two sides go out of balance.
But there's a couple different. You could look at a pyramid in a couple different facets, right? Like, for instance, families, bloodlines. You could look at a pyramid right? Because I think there was a Q post about this where that one side of the triangle went down, right?
Yes, that was the Vatican side.
Was that the Vatican side? Why do I feel like that it was addressing Saudi Arabia?
No.
And Saudi.
No, you got money, which is City of London, got governance, which is DC, and you had the Vatican.
So that's your conclusion about that post.
Q told you the Vatican. That's why I've always called it the Vatican deck.
All right, I'll have to pull that
That
up.
was a Q post.
All right.
So, but really what it's about is not just the Vatican, because there were issues at the Vatican, but they started auditing at the Vatican right after the 2008 crash, if you recall. And they entered the Vatican into Interpol in 2008. So they knew there was an issue there with the money changing. So it became about the Vatican. But really what this is talking to are those things that shape your norms, your values, your morals, right? And increasingly after especially the Johnson Amendment in 54, the religion piece has been removed. So what shaped our norms and values was Hollywood and the media.
So it's post 134, which is November 11th, 2017. It says, now, what power shift recently occurred? I'm sorry, let me go. This is why I said Saudi Arabia. It says House of Saud, U.S. control, follow the money. What power?
Follow the money, stop.
Right, yeah.
Follow the money. What happened? The money out of the Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia went through the Vatican IOR to the CIA. Now go down to the bottom of that post. You can read the whole thing, but it'll ask you. It gives you the Our Father, right?
Nope.
The follow one does. It gives you the Our Father, and it'll ask you. He asked you which version, and it uses the word trespasses. That's your clue that he's talking about the Vatican.
Okay, yeah. So 134 is follow the money. What power shift recently occurred? Was a new king appointed? ? Coincidence ?
Now you do know that the Vatican is a monarchy, right? It's not a democracy; it's a monarchy. It's got a pope.
Okay,
and it's because it's now a country.
Sovereign.
Since 1939, it's a country.
Yeah,
it
so it
is
has a
both
flag.
Governance and religion.
It's a state, right? Coincidence, dark to light. Why is this relevant? One side of the triangle removed, first time in history. Other sides following, and then you got the plus.
That's the other two sides, right? So you've seen my slide. I've put the pluses where I believe they belong. And I've always said, without money, the corruption of the other two sides of the triangle can't happen. I have said that from day one.
Okay, but there's going to be an area here that's going to be confusing. And what I mean is, when you're addressing money, you're tying it to the Vatican. But
in this particular situation, yes, because what we know is that money came from the Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia, and the big deal happened both, by the way, 2 separate years. 2013, you get Pope Francis. 2014, you got King Salman out of Saudi Arabia. King Salman kicked out. That was the first thing he did. They kicked out all the Wahhabists. Then on November 1st, 2017, they arrested most of them. That's where Prince Alawid was arrested. So you got a dual action. So the side of the triangle that collapsed.
you mean Bin Talal?
Bin Talal.
Yeah.
So you've got a side of the triangle that collapsed. Why? What are you talking about? They now had proof. Like I said, in 2008, they were entered into Interpol. In 2011 or July of 2013, July 4th, 2013, they started auditing the Vatican Bank.
So they used Saudi Arabia to infiltrate or to control the Vatican? essentially?
No, Saudi Arabia used the Vatican to move money, which had been done in the past. Our CIA has been using the Vatican many times.
I don't know.
Since
Just
43.
yeah.
So something like that.
Yeah, 43, 44.
You got to go back. You got to. It's in my Vatican D code, Sean. But you go backwards, and because the Vatican Bank isn't an actual bank,
Yeah.
it's a money changer like Walmart or some of these other. In fact, Walmart got a big fine just last year for the same problem. By the way, money changing entities do not have a banking charter, and because of that, there's no eyes in on what's going on in the bank.
Can I get your permission to upload your Vatican decodes on the America Rising YouTube channel?
Absolutely,
Let's
but
go.
I think the idea you and Mary had is better. That we just go ahead and redo them.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And we'll just live stream it on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah. So, nevertheless, what they did for 9/11, this is about 9/11, money from the Wahhabis out of Saudi Arabia went through the Vatican Bank, and I'm using air quotes because it's not a bank, it's the IOR, Institution of Religious Works, went through the Vatican Bank to the CIA here that funded and supported the education and growth of the terrorists that had come in, not just through Saudi Arabia, but they also came in with Iranian visas.
Iranian. Yeah.
So you got a bigger story there that most didn't even look into.
We're talking about still Contra networks.
Yes.
Okay.
Even though they tell you that that's all gone, it really wasn't. It was still a money for weapons. It was drugs for money, for weapons, for drugs for money. That cycle, the money for weapons for money cycle that Iran Contra was.
So what do you
But when
mean
you-
by when you say how do we govern the power we create? Who's the we in that, by the way?
You and I.
Okay. So
This comes right down to your kitchen table.
how do we moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Systems, accountability, and the common good is you and I.
Okay.
We're all a part of this. We all have a role to play.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I wanted to point out was that the projects that I've been researching all came to the same conclusion. This is the shadow banking revolution. Notice I'm taking the three sides of the triangle, not reiterating all of my research, because all of my research fits in one of these three buckets.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So my research has always followed the three sides of the triangle. So it always fits in one of the three buckets. For example, Crossfire Hurricane is governance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is where you had light, where there was a visible, functioning monetary system. In the 50s, they added the shadow banking system. Why? And it should have been a first clue, but of course it wasn't. They did it because they needed to convert petrodollars to euro dollars without having to be subjected to American regulatory processes.
Wow. City
This
of
got
London.
them around all the banking regulations and such. And as soon as they did that, you complicated the system. And when you complicate anything, you remove visibility,
Yeah, plausible deniability plays a role.
which eventually makes you so dependent on that system because you don't know what it's doing, but you know you can't live without it, which is the lesson throughout this.
That's a control mechanism.
Right. And then you end up with a shadow banking system that is a myriad of data points that, defies most logic as to how the hell the thing works, which is why I spent all that time on the shadow banking decks that I did. We go into governance research, same story. The more the research progressed, the more the same thing happened. When you make something complicated, you give it a lack of visibility by definition.
I love this.
The more complicated it gets, the harder it is to see inside it. Once you can't see inside it, then you get all the rogue activity.
I love
right?
this because this is what I have told people whenever it comes to law. Same.
Mm-hmm.
I apply the same concept to law, real law. If it's or constitutionality, anytime it's something is being overcomplicated, to me, that's always been a tell that fuckery is afoot.
Right.
Right.
Same with the regulations that we see.
Right. Or that's what turns capitalism or free market capitalism into crony capitalism.
Into crony capitalism.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happening. Look at Crossfire. Look at any of the investigations we've been watching. But even go back further, because there was a big investigation bringing back the Vatican. P2, Propaganda Duo, was raided, and in 1981, in early March of 1981, Propaganda Duo was raided. What was Propaganda Duo? It was a mob club, if you will, Freemason club, just outside of Rome. Its leader was a card-carrying communist. 2 weeks later, Reagan's shot.
Oh.
2 months later, the Pope got shot.
Oh.
In October, Anwar Sadat was murdered.
Oh.
What was that doing? And you can go look up P2, Propaganda Duo, however you want to look at it. That's also in my Vatican decodes, where you can see that any effort to bring peace met with immediate retaliation. And what was interesting is you had a contractor, Bernanke, I can't remember his name, but you had a contractor, CIA contractor, who said, hey, the CIA is involved with Propaganda Duo. Who ran that committee? John Kerry.
Yep.
And they tossed it out because he was a contractor. He wasn't a real CIA person.
Sean, it was so bad in Italy during that time period. It's referred to as the years of lead. There were so many bombings,
there were so many murders. Yes.
assassinations,
Oh, man.
killing of. I mean, it was brutal.
What year?
Including 1981, that the 80s in general, starting in about the mid 70s,
Yes.
coming into the 80s.
It's too bad. I
started
love the
getting really-
80s.
In fact, there was a murder at the Vatican as a warning.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Go look up the years of lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story.
It ties to Operation Gladio on the
Mm-hmm.
back end, which goes back to the money changing that she's talking about.
And just to add perspective, Operation
Colonel
Gladio.
Towner's ears just perked up somewhere.
Yeah, but Operation Gladio is an umbrella, right? It's an
About
umbrella
Roxanne.
term. All these countries had their own stay-behind armies, but they were all controlled by the same groups of people.
Yep.
And CIA was their operational instructions
Yes.
and how money got forwarded.
Interesting. I didn't know any of this. The years of lead were a period of social and political turmoil in Italy that lasted from the late 60s to the late 80s, marked by a wave of both far left and far right political terrorism, they say.
It started with anti-Nazi, which is far right, and then became about anti-communism.
And in many of the research, it looks like operatives dressed up
As the
different
other.
groups.
Right.
They would commit acts of terrorism, and then in effort. So it went back and forth on
Sounds
both
like
sides.
today.
Yeah.
But the thing is people were so partisan, they didn't realize it was all the same thing, and it was all about Trotskyism.
Yes.
Hegelian dialectic. They were trying to achieve something else through all these problems, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Right.
Yes.
The years of lead are sometimes considered to have begun with the 1968 movement in Italy and the hot autumn strikes starting in 1969. The death of the policeman Antonio, I think this is what you were talking about,
Yes.
Mayor, Annarumma in 69. The Piazza Fontana bombing in December of that year, which killed 17, and was perpetrated by the right-wing terrorists in Milan, and the death shortly after of anarchist worker Giuseppe Pinelli while in police custody under suspicion of being responsible for the attack.
Where's your first hint that the law enforcement in Italy was corrupted?
Oh.
Which, by the way, Domenico Gianni, who was the papal bodyguard, came from the financial crimes unit out of Italy. And he joined the Vatican right before the Pope died in 2004.
All the images, I'm seeing raised fist of communism in almost all these images.
Because that's the end state.
What'd you say, Mayor?
At the identical time, you have everything blowing up, all backed by communism in our country. In the 60s, all the way up through the identical.
Oh, this is McCarthy time.
Yes.
No, McCarthy was in the 50s.
Oh, he was in
But
the 50s.
but it
oh.
was still
on the heels
widely
of that.
discussed.
Yeah.
But that was
Because
all whether
what you
underground-
saw was people understood what McCarthy was saying.
Yeah.
and they were still talking about it widely, and you had this whole counter narrative
Yes.
that went on steroids to try to drown out what people were commenting on.
Suddenly, you had
That's the period of the 60s through and through.
and then
Okay.
you had
And also, and I'm sorry, Mary, and
No, it's
also
fine.
part of the reason why the media had gotten so captured,
yes.
because they really needed the media to drown out those conversations.
Yep.
All of this in paperclip was all occurring at the same time.
Simultaneously.
Oh man! So this was really the New World Order attempt to really put one foot in a lot more. This was the period of time that they really gained their stronghold on America.
Which is why I tried to explain Trotskyism, because it
That's
fits all
global.
3 sides of the triangle. It's global.
So-
Trotsky believed that Marx's theory
should be global, not
should be
just-
global.
Okay. Oh, that was going to be the mode with which to start the New World Order.
Right.
It was essentially
Well, actually,
used as
that
a
is
weapon,
the New
right?
World Order.
Oh, okay. That was going to be implemented. Well, we don't know.
And it has been implemented.
Yeah.
What they did after the 60s, in particular after the 60s, you notice things start to slow down a little. By the mid to late 80s, things felt calm.
Yep.
And that was an illusion. We were being put to sleep. It was an illusion, because underneath, which is where I spent all my research time, underneath things never slowed down.
No, it ramped up in South America.
It not just the political or the public rallies and battles and such, but from a public policy perspective, our public policy started to erode around that same time.
They tend to cycle in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and you look, because in our country, it really ramped up in 64 and it went until 84, ironically.
Right.
And now it's gone down again, and then
Mm-hmm.
it came back up, and we're now finishing that 20-year cycle again.
Which gets back to the 4 turnings, right?
Yes.
Which 4 turnings says 80 years, but
So,
we're
all right.
I was told math is racist, so what do I know?
yeah, right.
So, I think we're all wondering, because at some point, unless we're close to it now, which I don't, in my opinion, I don't feel like we are, the whole concept of 4 to 6% loss forever, which means what to you? What does that mean to you out there? I'll ask everybody out there in the chat. What does 4 to 6% loss forever mean to you? To me, what it means is there's got to be even more so of an awakening that has to ensue. And my question is how? What's going to lead us to that? And I suspect
I think an unveiling, I suspect major unveilings, but I don't think it's just, and this is my opinion, I don't think it's just here in the US. Because we're talking an extremely interconnected world, one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and I think you're going to start to see a domino effect. And I think the world is watching us, because I think we're that first big domino. And then you'll start to see all these others, a cascade effect of dominoes all falling that brings about a collective awakening.
this is going to be needed in order to get to your first slide. What you said in your first slide.
In order to bring balance back into the system,
Yeah.
you got to go deep inside the system and clean it out, which all of our public discussion, none of it does that. We talk about one thing or another. We never talk about it as a system, right? We don't talk about governance from Brussels. We talk about money from City of London, but we don't talk much in the perspective of
100%.
money and governance being connected
100%.
to influence.
And law
So-
and the application of law, which
Well,
again,
law is governance, right?
yes, and again, I think a lot of us think that the Constitution is exclusive here for America, but really, it just clearly states those God-given rights that I think I would argue everybody in the world has. It's just a matter of implementing it or asserting it, right? Canada.
And I think that's why this deck is timely, because I think part of the problem isn't that there's not interest in cleaning it out. We've got an entire century of propaganda where people don't know what to think about
So,
what they're seeing.
Right. Thank you. Reversing that is the
Reversing that
task.
is key
Yeah.
because you don't fully fix this problem until you've got a public that says, "Oh hell no."
Right.
Right.
We've seen
But
evidence
not
of
just oh hell no.
Yeah.
Oh hell no, I need you to do this. I want you to do this. I demand you do this. People need to be informed to the point where they understand how to begin to unravel it within their own communities.
But we can't just be outsourcing the needing
You
to do
can't.
something about it,
You
right?
can't outsource it,
We
and
gotta do it
everybody has a role.
ourselves, yeah.
It starts at your kitchen table with norms and values, right? Comes all the way up, because what is government but a microcosm of what's happening in our own homes?
And if you look at, I mean, just over the weekend, for example, how about France? How about France? And the backdrop of the Eiffel Tower burnt, looking like it's burning, even though it was a car in front of it. But still, that imagery is powerful, right? Then you contrast that with what you're seeing in Poland, which is Polish patriots taken to the street en masse, and it was incredible. But to see that contrast now, unless you're on social media, X, you're not really seeing it. The 9-to-5ers, the normies, the even, whatever remaining semi-rational Democrats are today, they're not seeing that.
I think for most people, which is why MAGA has gotten so big, most people recognize something's wrong.
Yeah.
But
Even the left.
But like I said, they don't necessarily know how to put their finger on it.
Yeah, even the left, because, we all know they're angry. We all know they're full of hatred. We also know that it's misguided and they've been misled. So there's a component of this that has to make it so that they recognize that they've been misled. They recognize that they're
So let
misguided.
me continue this
Please.
because that gets right into influence, right? Influence, you have all these policy and advocacy networks everywhere. You got legislative networks. We went through the LCCHR and that influence network and the bridges and the revolving door, right? We went through all of that. And what it did was it increased also complexity.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's something done wrong, all they do is move the body, get it out of the limelight, bring it back later. And so you're actually watching the same thing happening when you look at how corrupt institutions corrupt other institutions. You look at the umbrella of LCCHR and tell me you can't see it. To the point where we now got SPLC under indictment, which I said from day one, that's low-hanging fruit. So one of the problems that I think happened, although all three AIs told me that it was, what did they say? It was an opinion, but a well-founded, well-supported opinion. Okay? Because in 1954, we get the Johnson Amendment, and I'll get into this in a little bit more, but the Johnson Amendment literally restricted tax-exempt organizations from talking politics. This is the first step in burying and why the 990 needed changing, by the way.
Yep.
But for the churches where most of your moral values were founded, were completely locked out of the national discussion. And that allowed the influence network to fill in that void. Hollywood media is an example.
And boy, did they.
So the reason why, because that pattern of complexity, reducing visibility, is straight through every bit of research I did. And as soon as you reduce visibility, you increase dependency on the system. You don't know what it is. You don't understand the system. I know they're corrupt, but comes out, right? I'll vote for a corrupt person because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job otherwise. Those kinds of thoughts come right down to your own family network. And so once you've done that, you've gotten rid of or made moot the issue of accountability. And how did they do that? Well, accountability comes along only as necessary to tramp down on the public blowback. So you see somebody publicly arrested, but fixing the problem never comes out.
Yep.
Which is why I went through this, because when you take take it all as a collective body of research, it kept arriving at the same thing. Accountability was the answer. It always broke down because power got more concentrated, more rules were put over top of it to make it complex, and you couldn't see through that, which increased dependency and reduced accountability. Every piece of research I've done has done the same thing. You can't dismiss that. And it wasn't even that these systems are connected, because there is an element of connection, but it was more how they all began to collapse the exact same way.
I see you got media up there. Wicked Mom brings up a good point. We have, although I would make an adjustment to this, but she says we have 50% of the nation who won't believe it unless they say it on mainstream media.
I don't know if you've noticed, but CNN is starting to say more things that are like, oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, they were questioning Grant. They were Grant Plattner.
Yeah.
Just today.
They gave him a hard time just the other day, remember?
Yep. And they're bringing on more. It's almost like the conservative to liberal pundits on there are starting to even out a little bit more.
Right.
So maybe
they're not one man out kind of stories anymore.
Although I would argue it's probably a little less than 50%. I don't think
it doesn't matter. What you're seeing is the shift. And that shift is quite timely, to be very honest.
They have to survive.
Well, and even if I don't know if it's a part of the plan, if it's done for survival. At this point, for me, it doesn't matter, because people who are glued to the CNN story are listening and hearing a perspective they've never heard before.
Really?
So I find that fascinating.
Are you familiar with a judge named Adrian Rudolph Fonts out of South Africa? Ira Schultz in the Rumble chat says, I need to interview Judge Adrian Fonts from here in South Africa. He will make all this make sense. Universal judge, God's last judge with receipts.
Wow.
Just saying.
I would love to talk to him. No, I don't know.
He was tasked by the Alliance to find the trusts / stolen money of the ALHA, ALHA, and Omega Trust for Humanity forensic audits, and he found it all.
Wouldn't that be a fascinating interview?
Is he Ira Schultz? Let me know. Does he typically join for interviews? Because if he does, I will absolutely reach out to him. Thank you for good looking
I
out
want to
on
be
that
a
one.
part of that.
Yeah, you'd have to be
putting my thing in the hat now. So what I'm really pointing out here is, if my research keeps coming back to the same issue, people who haven't read the Vatican encyclical would be very surprised to learn that that's exactly the same pattern that Pope Leo was talking about. Concentration of power.
Boy, that destroys a lot of narratives.
Increases complexity, reduces visibility, increases dependency, creating a governance risk because there's no accountability. It's the exact same pattern from regardless of what we're talking about.
So many people have dug their heels in on the Pope Leo being no, not Leo. Francis being a scumbag.
I know. Sadly, I don't know what to say about that.
I know.
Because those same
over
people
time,
aren't
the hope is to.
They're also the same people that aren't interested in hearing the truth about what happened during his papacy. Some of frankly, the miracles that took place during his papacy, the things that changed, they're not interested in that. They are dug in, and I don't know, enjoy the mattress over your head, I guess. I don't know what else to say. And I am getting kind of ticked.
Yeah.
That people are so.
Over time, I think people are more and more, especially in our audience.
Well, I don't want to be a part of that discussion. I really don't. I've gotten to the point, I'm tired of trying to defend my religion. I have no interest in doing it.
You don't have to come from a defensive stance on this.
I'm not doing it anymore.
No, you don't have to.
And if you haven't got the wherewithal to actually look up what the Pope actually said, go back under your bed.
I've done that, actually. I've been providing actual context. So when you have like, Gateway Pundit, who makes no bones about it, they're pundits, right? Which means they offer their opinion. But in the title, where they say, woke Pope offers this.
I'm so tired of it.
But if I present the actual statement that was made right from his lips himself, I'm like, how do you actually pull what you just said out of what he just said? I don't understand. But presenting that is very crucial.
Knowing he has a force multiplier as an influencer and you don't, he doesn't even bother answering those questions.
Yeah.
And it's irregular. Because if he did answer your question, it would give you a force multiplier and you're not going to get it.
Right.
So, like I said, there's a common architecture to this entire thing. Oops. Yeah. The common architecture literally comes down to a reoccurring pattern, regardless of what you're looking at, whether it's a system, whether it's a geopolitical or domestic issue, it's the same architecture. Judge acts rogue, judge gets off by acting rogue, and some poor sap like Tina Peters goes to prison, while all the players that were involved never see the inside of a courtroom. I mean, it's the same story, regardless of what you're looking at. If you're in a company, you have to do performance standards, yet your company isn't even testing itself against its own performance.
It's like asking itself to audit itself. And right.
Just Fed Up just said, you're right, Feisty Cat, the Pope has never come out against Trump. Just looking out for humanity. I'm not Catholic and I see it.
See?
Thank you, Just Fed Up,
See?
because that's absolutely true. In fact, the articles are coming out saying they had a tiff earlier this month. No, they didn't. They had no tiff.
And we don't know if they're knowingly pushing that narrative or if they're just blinded.
Enough. The Pope actually came out and said, I wrote my response before Trump even did X.
Right. Yeah.
So that's knowingly.
Hey, can you keep rolling? My eyeballs are floating. I'll be right back. You got this, Mayor?
I got it.
All right.
Eyeballs are floating.
Fancy terms.
So when accountability shift, you start seeing this battle come out. And this gets into the slide I showed you yesterday, Marion. I told you that I had updated it.
Yes.
So back in 1933, we had Glass-Steagall right here. Glass-Steagall put boundaries between banking and investment. But if you go further, we actually upset that just before the 2008 crash with the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act that removed Glass-Steagall.
So for the audience, what is the benefit of Glass-Steagall?
Glass-Steagall would have prevented 2008 or gone a long way to preventing 2008 because banks were investment houses. Okay. And they started the credit default swaps, the derivatives, that whole issue. They were investments where the bank then didn't have the capital to lend money. And Glass-Steagall would have prevented that. It created a direct line, right? A red line. Do not cross this.
Okay.
Gramm-Leach-Bliley actually removed that protection, and that risk became harder to see and harder to contain, leading to 2008. And we ended up putting out $700 billion.
I assume it was deliberate.
Yeah, it was deliberate. How do you not see the deliberateness in that? Right.
I know.
Why can you not see? So the Inspector General Act was designed to check in on and review operations inside an agency. Well, in 2014 and 15, they had an administrative law judge, and I've talked about those in the past, where their sitting judge comes into the executive branch, writes this administrative opinion that is used then as law, which it isn't. It actually has no force of law. But that administrative opinion removed the ability for these inspector generals to get the data they needed. And let me keep this going because you're looking at 2014 and 15. What they said was you can't have access to classified information. Think of the national security letters. Everything started getting put under classification.
Right.
And what does that do? It puts a blinder on, right? It obscures, reduces visibility, and you can't check in on it. And then in 2016, Congress was so pissed, this is before Trump, that they actually passed a law to degrade what had been done the year before and restore those protections.
Okay.
But you can see the battle, right?
Yeah.
You can see it going back and forth. Communications Act of 34, you ended up with the 1996 Communications Act that removed ownership restrictions. This is how we ended up with the Big Six. And you come down into information concentration, you had, because of the ownership restrictions being removed, you had now information concentrated. How many people remember a local newspaper and no longer have one? Right here. Because they took from printed media to broadcast media, took over local stations, local papers. Gannett became a big vehicle for taking over local papers. Remember, we had an attempted assassination of Gannett a couple years back.
Yeah.
Come back into political informants. You have FICA, which talked about campaign contributions, but then you saw money expand, dark money expand, starting in the 2000s.
So explain FICA real quick.
This is literally where you had to be transparent with regards to money that was entered into campaigns. So it's a Federal Election Contributions Act or something close to that. And it required that the money in a campaign be open and transparent. But if you remove that dark money with through the 501c4 vehicle, which didn't have to report, right? So they move the money through the vehicles of the foundations under 501c4, which are dark. Then you see this huge expansion of dark money in our elections.
Yep.
What is the response to that is we've now got Scott Bessent making 990 changes. And then finally, environmental oversight, the review and public participation to challenge projects was put in place in 1970, but immediately it was removed. They created exemptions in 2005, and we no longer had visibility. In fact, you may see public notice go up, but it's really hard to get information as to what they're really intending to do.
Yeah, it really is.
Now we're at artificial intelligence, and I put a bit of sunlight behind this because the window hasn't closed. And I will show you through the deck proof of that. The window has not closed. We still have time to re-implement sound governance practices. So AI is an open and very relevant national discussion at this time. And I'll show that as I move forward. But this is an example of where we as a citizen, if we're properly informed, we can actually be productive with regards to the public policy. So you're seeing it, right? Which made me, it's not a sieve, but I'm showing a valley because things tend to get stuck here.
Yes.
We don't normally go over the bridge. Where we try, we keep going back over. So we're not literally, the accountability provisions are fluid. How's that? To where we're not able to do anything, right? We didn't build the financial system. We didn't build the administrative state or the internet or any of the ecosystems that we're using, but we did have to live under those conditions. And if you don't understand those conditions or what's really behind them, then you have very little input that you're able to give. Right? Because when something is not seen,
Right.
then your dependence increases, right?
Yeah,
We depend on all of these things. We have no clue how they're made up. I mean,
the way our dollar is backed would be a good example of that.
exactly. Most people don't understand trillions of dollars being sucked right out of the American economy.
They don't understand the interest rate that the debt is attached to. They don't
Or the fact that inflation is a tax.
Exactly. But they're dependent. They're trapped in it.
You're trapped in it because you need the dollar.
Right.
So you sucker up to high interest rates because you need a roof over your head and groceries on the table.
Yeah.
So we are dependent on the very system we're locked out of reviewing.
Mhm.
And so we not only don't have public review, we don't even have a governance review. All of that's been removed,
That's
which
the
is why I'm saying we hear about accountability, and most people intuitively think handcuffs. But that's not what I'm talking about.
right.
We used to have accountability in our systems. It's been eroded
Deliberate.
deliberately. So, like I said, here are the boundaries. And you see that I added under each of these the act that actually eroded those boundaries, which created more complexity, which creates more obscurity, opacity, increases dependency, and decreases governance. So please jump in because I know you saw this yesterday and I got the hiccups.
No, I mean, I don't have any, I don't think you need to expand on this section.
So I'm bringing back the three sides of the triangle.
Mhm.
And the reason why I'm bringing it back, because I think now is a good time to kind of push you into understanding intuitively what this is. You got your nodes, the three sides, right?
Yeah.
One side impacts other sides, right? So when money gets corrupted, which it started in the 50s, it immediately corrupts one or both other sides. Why? Because they're interacting. These are the places where each side interacts with the other sides. So as soon as money gets corrupted, you change your governance to hide it. You increase the media attention on it to pacify you and cover it up.
I was going to
Right.
say, in order for the other sides to exist, you have to corrupt them. Like in order to make for the, like in order.
And
for the
that's
first
why I've
one-
always put capital at the top,
Right.
because none of this works without that money.
Yeah. And you
And the
have
first
to
thing you
corrupt
do
the
is
other-
corrupt the money, right?
Yeah. You have to.
Because if you just took this money and started doling it out and you didn't have a replacement mechanism where the society was an off books revenue source,
Right.
you're screwed.
Yep.
So, what I wanted to show here, you have to have all three sides. Now, in the Vatican deck, I pointed out that this is a system of governance or that man put in place. You keep hearing about 666, right? You always hear 666. It comes out of Revelation, the mark of the beast. And I pointed out that 6 represents man,
Mm-hmm.
which means man is sin because of the fall of Adam and Eve. Okay? Man creates the system 666. When you corrupt the sides, you're increasing the mark of the beast. What is the mark of the beast? Total corruption by Satan.
I would argue we've been living in the system.
Right.
Like people are waiting for revelation, but if your analysis is accurate, then we've been living.
In this system for a while.
Yeah.
Which is now think about the repercussions.
Right.
Since they corrupted money,
Mhm.
and I mean majorly corrupted money, especially in the 50s, we have been in a state of war ever since.
Yes. And we can't get out of it because I
Right.
mean they've this is the bitch of the system, but they have regulated us to the point where you can't barter, you can't live off the grid really. Like you can't, so when they talk about you have to take the mark, like you can't exist really.
Right.
The Amish is the closest.
And even
can't do it
even
completely.
they've been victimized under Obama, under Biden.
They
The
were
Amish were being victimized. They were
Yes.
held accountable for milk crossing state lines into Maryland, if you recall.
all the dumb shit. Yes.
Yeah. But they've done it to any group that dared do something that was contrary to state control.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
So keeping this going, because when balance is lost, the first thing that becomes the victim is you and I, the common good.
Mhm.
The very first thing, human dignity out the window, and you end up with misaligned power that controls how the rule of law works. And I think Sean would have enjoyed this slide, because the key thing from a governance perspective that we use to prevent total corruption is the rule of law proactively applied.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your balance mechanisms in. As soon as something goes out of balance, an audit fail. You look then for corruption and you immediately apply corrective action before it becomes catastrophic. Right? But in an imbalanced system, you've got to take away liberties and rights. And we've been watching that a steady erosion since the 50s. And actually, you can go back further, but it really, you can see demonstrated outcomes by the 50s. How's that? I think that's a better statement.
Yeah. No, well, and that's when they were really going from the 50s forward. They were attacking the nuclear family, which is the root,
right?
The human dignity, common good, and I mean, without religion, faith, religion is just organized faith to me. That is how you structure dignity.
Well, because it gets into the foundational principles and values, right? We live by the commandments, for example, as a Christian. You live by the commandments. You treat other people biblically, as Christ said, treat them as you would treat yourself. So we live by these principles, the golden rule, that kind of thing. When you remove that, like the Johnson Amendment removed churches from the discussion, when you removed that, it's very easy to bypass the common good, which is Catholic social teaching, which I will go through again in here. So as soon as one side of the triangle falls, the others start falling. And we saw that, right? You screw up with the money, 2008, we started seeing really heavy political capture in all of the agencies, health and money. There was no difference. It was total political capture, right? And then we started really seeing where they would tell you the economy is fine, even though we knew better. These are peaceful riots as everything's burning behind you, right? The narrative. So we've been looking at one picture and hearing another. And it always amazed me at how many people heard but didn't see. Right? It always amazed me. It's almost as if the media was trying to say, people, wake the hell up. Which has led us to distrust. We not only don't trust our government, we don't trust our monetary system, we don't trust each other anymore.
No.
How many times have you heard, I don't know who to trust?
Oh, yes.
And that creates the final peg of instability, is when the public loses trust, then you create a level of instability that Trotskyism tries to achieve, and that's public unrest.
Yeah, that's it all. There's multiple tactics of Trotskyism to get to where we're at in the final outcome. There's multiple ways they do it. But yeah. And I would argue that's why they inject all the crazy, like, there's some really crazy conspiracy theories out there, and I would argue most of them are deliberately injected.
Oh, I'm so glad you said
they
that.
They absolutely are, right?
I don't think regular people came up with some of the shit.
Shout out to Flat Earthers. We literally covered this last night when the first movie that we played called, oh gosh, what was it called? Oh man.
Oh, Sean, before I forget, I want to have a discussion with you sometime on the one that you showed in the middle of the night that was about
how to blow up a pipeline.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometime I want to have a discussion because I researched it.
Yep.
And then it matches with all the research I'd been doing on the Sunday show.
Feisty, you want to watch an interesting movie? Check out How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
I will have to.
Boy.
It's Weather Underground.
It was called Begonia. It was called Begonia, the first movie we played last night with
I didn't see that one yet.
Oh my gosh. It was Flat Earth from the very beginning. These two wild conspiracy theorists abducted the head CEO of a company.
Oh yeah, Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, thank you. And yeah, Halloween in Begonia, and I mean they thought she was an alien. Yeah, she was some sort of lizard alien and from outer space, and it was flat Earth, all of that stuff, and it was seemingly intended to ridicule, I would argue, MAGA, but yeah.
Probably.
I agree with
Doesn't
everything
surprise
you're
me.
saying, Mayor, on that. But continue.
So why does accountability fail? And I think by now you know where I'm going to go with this, because when you dilute the ability to make decisions within a system, you're removing accountability. The complexity obviously removes it. So where it should be a simple perspective, they've actually complicated it. And what you're seeing here is power is the goal. That's why it's at the top of this web. But you have to subjectively and objectively corrupt everything below it in order to keep power. And you have to get more, it's got to get more and more progressive as people become more and more awake. So now we're down to the very networks we're using, whether it's Twitter, whether it's the internet, whether it's AI, it doesn't matter. But now we're at a point where are we getting too dependent on these networks? Because if they grab this, our interdependencies are sealed, which is what the Pope talked about, by the way. Because how do you unravel it once the very networks you rely on? So we make you dependent so that we can then capture it, right?
So what are some indicators that we can look for that this is starting to unfold?
Okay, so I don't know if you heard about Anthropic's CEO and what he said
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks ago about how when prompted, Claude said that it had a 5 to 15% probability that it has emotion.
Yep.
It's not exactly what he said. In fact, I've got everything that he said. That's not exactly what was the discussion, but here's the influence network. The media couched it as Claude is becoming a human.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the reality is. All people are hearing is what the media perpetuated. Right?
Yep.
But what that's doing is that fear, the first response people have, if I don't get it, if I can't understand it, kick it out, I don't want it. So rather than embrace a national discussion on the value of AI and how to put meaningful guardrails in place, knee-jerk reaction, get rid of it. And that serves a purpose because you're removing a key piece of an information network that if it were to have the proper guardrails, none of the other above it could happen because we would have information at our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And what is anthropic? What is the definition of anthropic, by the way? Of or relating to humans or the era, essentially, of human life, right? It's like a concern of human life. And what is anthropic? The AI company, I would argue, is very misanthropic. That they're the opposite, just like OpenAI is really actually closed AI, right? Double speak.
Oh, you're gonna love what I got coming up, Sean.
Okay. It's
You're
always the
gonna
opposite.
love-
It's always the opposite of what they call themselves,
Wait till you
right?
see what I got coming.
All right.
Mary's already laughing because when I showed it to them yesterday, they were busting up. So I am talking about the ability to put in guardrails so that the paradox doesn't get worse, right? If we rethink and go back to the basics of making sure light is primary, not the complexity, then we have a chance. We actually have a chance. And we're watching under this Trump administration, we're watching a lot of the principles of accountability coming back into play. So I think we've got time, but we don't have time that you can sit on your laurels. We've got to be active participants. Okay. So we've had warnings about this is financial, right? Brandeis, Keynes, and Buffett, they've all warned about it. We've had warnings from institutional power, from Wilson to Eisenhower to Kennedy to Rumsfeld. institutional power going off the rails. And we've had more warnings about moral drift when you look at Niebauer back in 1944 all the way up to Michael Walzer just, 40 years ago when he was talking about moral drift. The warnings have been there. We've also had Pope Leo talking about the Babel question. What is the power of the Tower of Babel? And it should have been after another slide. But nevertheless, the Tower of Babel, most people think that because they were building this tower and they were building it because they thought they could exceed God, the actual question goes deeper. And it's something we could all kind of embody, because it's when you think you got all you need, but you really don't have wisdom.
Can I offer an indicator?
Go ahead.
Jamie Dimon
Yeah.
losing his shit about the
Boy,
Clarity
did he
Act.
ever? Did he? Yes, about the Clarity Act.
I didn't see that clip. You'll have to send that one.
That was just
I have
that
it.
was Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I'll play it for you before the show's over. And this guy does an amazing rundown. Breakdown.
He's very
of,
accurate.
of Jamie Dimon's reaction to the Clarity Act, and I think it was with Maria Bartiromo, if I'm not mistaken. So, and it's essentially suggesting what, Feisty?
He's saying that crypto or blockchain is bad for banks because
Stablecoin.
Crypto was stablecoins in particular, but he's including the entirety of the ecosphere of blockchain, of crypto. He's saying that because crypto can offer interest, that hurts the banks. And he comes right out and tells you right out loud, that's our revenue model, right? I mean, he literally loses his shit.
Yep.
He's seeing all of us.
So right. You're seeing the right people giving the right reaction to
really yes.
Yeah.
So whether you get it or not, it doesn't matter. What you're seeing is, okay, if he's angry, I think I like the Clarity Act.
Yeah, right.
So, like I said, conceptually, people look at the Tower of Babel and they're assuming that it's a warning about having too much ambition. And in today with AI, technological ambition, I really don't think that's the lesson. I think the lesson is much deeper than that, because the people that were building Babel, and I got to tell you a quick story about this slide when I'm done. People that were building Babel had all the technological capability. They were smart. They were capable. They were obviously engineering geniuses to build this kind of tower. What did God say? They were exceeding wisdom, right? They no longer focused on God. So what did he do? He confused the language. And this is where we get all these different languages. So what is the lesson? The lesson is, when you believe that you've got all these capabilities, you no longer need God. That is a key condition of 666, right?
It's a thwarting of God's will,
Right.
and because I've always seen the Tower of Babel as a means of what they were trying to reach the heavens or something, to
Because they thought
essentially
they
become
had
God.
they not so much become God, but to be equal with God.
Oh, okay, yeah, and if
That'll humble him.
boy, if anybody really wants to understand how language has been weaponized, which I always get the fluoride stare anytime I ever say English language has been used to weaponize against us, I get the fluoride every single time. What could that even mean? When I say something like, it's another form of enslavement. Get into etymology. Holy crap. If you want to be pissed off, look into etymology of the English language. It'll piss you off.
So throughout the presentation, I've talked about all my research. I've shown you the warnings. I've shown you the consequences of unchecked power. When these processes or systems become a lot more powerful or influential along the time, you're constantly reworking the question of whether wisdom is actually in that system, right? Because it seems like really stupid people are doing stupid things and it never gets checked, right? So I think it was right for Pope Leo XIV to include this in the encyclical because it's an excellent warning. He's not against technology, no more than Pope Leo XIII was against industrialization. They're not warning against progress itself. They're warning against progress without wisdom.
Right. Yeah.
That is the key crux here. Quick story about this slide before I move on. My original picture in the center had just the Tower of Babel. I asked for an edit because I wanted people to realize that they're standing at that precipice of understanding that they need to gain wisdom, right? And AI took the Tower of Babel out of it. And I said, no, I want the Tower of Babel to be put back in. And it came back and said, I don't know that I would make that dominant. Let's make a subtle Tower of Babel in the background. Does that look subtle to you? I busted up laughing when that happened. Just going to point that out.
Gemini or ChatGPT?
ChatGPT.
Okay.
Of all of the AIs that I use, ChatGPT makes the best. It takes my conceptualized idea and almost, I have to make edits, but my conceptualized idea typically comes out on the slide exactly as I envision it. I can't make these slides myself.
So I wonder if there will be regulations in place to ensure, because we should like that we're seeing multiple companies developing AI, open AI, you get Gemini, you get ChatGPT, you got Grok, and Anthropic and many others.
You've got fee for service ones like Claude.
And you also got like even our military has their own.
They have their own.
Right. So what was I going to say? So I wonder if there'll be regulations in place to ensure.
Well, let me show you.
Okay.
Let me show you where I'm going.
By the way,
with
thank you
this.
to Mountain 17 who just dropped a $20 Rumble
Thank
rant.
you, Annie. Thank you.
Oh, it's Annie. I like this. Shout out to Annie. Thank you so much, Annie. God bless.
Really sweet.
So
Yep.
the moral foundation of accountability is deeply rooted in Catholic social teaching, because it constantly reminds us about why visibility, dignity, and power, accountable power matters.
Which is why
So-
Obama needed to be anti-abortion, or not anti-abortion, but
Well, he was anti-abortion his first term.
yeah,
Completely shifted second term.
right.
Yeah.
Because he
On a lot
needed
of-
that principle
He got
vote.
that flexibility he told Medvedev about. Remember?
Right.
So when you take the moral foundation of accountability, like I said, you're looking at questions that go beyond what is efficient, what we're capable of doing, or even the technology we're developing, because you're looking at it through a moral lens, which has been carefully and systematically removed, at least over the last 70 years. So our society depends on understanding true justice, but true justice comes with stewardship, and we're no longer stewards, which means our human dignity is the first to go out the window. So I wanted to point that out because I did something. Pope Leo the 14th talked about AI. The warnings in what he talked about are very heavily echoed in what Pope Leo the 13th said. I read both of these encyclicals. I used AI to help me because it said, I'm looking at what Pope Leo the 13th said, and it's like, this doesn't make sense. I know there were other great encyclicals on, warning against globalization, rogue capital. Pope Francis put out 2 encyclicals on this. So I said to AI, here's the messages I see out of these 2 encyclicals, which it vetted and said, yes, these are the key messages, or what you would consider a core message. I said, look at the other encyclicals across that century and give me the core message out of those encyclicals. Sure enough, every single pope, 7 popes, 8 encyclicals, all warned of the exact same thing. That's not a small thing. So I want to just stop here for a second because, look, folks, I'm not here to defend anything. Catholic Church, just like every other church in the world, is a human institution, right? And it's had its failures, it's had its controversies. It's also had great moments of success, but that's a different story. And sometimes it obviously doesn't live up to its own teachings, or at least as the media has put a spotlight on certain things and not on others, right? This presentation isn't asking anyone to ignore any of those realities, or nor am I actually asking anyone to reach the conclusions I did about the church. What I find remarkable on this slide is that the warnings that you saw through history and the warnings you see through the encyclicals for a century are all identical, which also line up with my research. That's all I'm asking for you to look at. It's not about the church. I don't really care what you think of the Catholic
We
Church.
have a very objective audience, so I don't think
well,
they care.
not always. That's why I had to point that out. This is not a Catholic deck.
What'd you
But
say, Mayor?
the topic is derived from the encyclical, so I had to talk to it. Sorry.
No, I was just saying nobody's posting any comments.
Nobody
that are-
cares.
They have in the past.
Yeah, but like I told you time and time again, it's going to take time for a lot of people to remove emotion. Like, I don't care if we're talking the same thing about Mormonism. Okay, I want a world where we can not all have a visceral emotional reaction when we hear somebody talking about it. We can listen objectively, and if you have any objections, you can ask an objective question about it in the way of being constructive, not, again, emotional. Because, again, man, if there's one thing I've learned from this awakening, it's that emotion clouds judgment. So,
Well, what I was trying to point out here is that we're very capable and even comfortable with talking about progression, talking about our capabilities, talking about all of our innovations, right? This is something we never waste a moment on. We never want for an opportunity to sing those praises. But we seem to be very uncomfortable when you ask about wisdom and responsibility or stewardship, right?
yeah.
So one of the key things about shifting the tide is we got to stop being uncomfortable, because wisdom, stewardship, dignity, the common good, which is very well-seated Catholic social teaching, these are important topics that we no longer bring up. And as long as we're not going to bring them up, then we're not adding that lens that says, is that innovation good for mankind? We're more interested in progressing that innovation than we are in making sure that that innovation adheres to a standard where man is still in control. And that's where you get into a dangerous point. Which takes me to accountability as an ecosystem. I told you I was going to talk about accountability. This is, I've been talking about it all the way through. It's something that really needs to be talked about because, like I said, many people think about accountability being handcuffs, but there's so much more to that, because it's not just about a reactive form of accountability. It's also proactive, where things are visible. There's oversight, there's responsibility, there's independent review, and there's correction. What does that look like in a practical sense? Well, when you've got visibility, you start reducing the regulatory process, right? What is Trump doing? For every one, reduce 5. When you look at oversight, we're seeing, especially out of the House, but we're seeing oversight. We're seeing all these reports coming out of Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, where it's actually doing its job of providing oversight. And people are, at least on the federal level, in some cases, we've got a long way to go, but you're seeing people take personal responsibility for doing that oversight. And then you've got independent review, where you've got outside agencies, St. Tom Fenton, who's doing FOIA work,
Judicial
right?
Watch, yeah.
Right. So you've got independent review happening at the same time, which is a public-private partnership, if you will. And then finally, there's actual conversations going on at the committee levels at both chambers about corrective action, things that they're looking at changing. So we're adding this proactive piece back. Does it happen tomorrow? No. Until then, we're still looking at reactive, because there's a lot of criminal accountability that needs to be dealt with. But where I think we add the most and the best influence is looking for, touting, even public opinion, public comment on regulations that are coming out.
Right. You also got the issue of going after the useful idiots, the ones, the individuals that are used to achieve these goals for the wizards behind the curtain, right? And how do you create an environment so that those wizards behind the curtain are discouraged from corruption and abusing the system, and to discourage others from being used by those individuals in moving forward, right, into the future.
Right. So now I'd like to shift direction. Not direction, kind of shift the story, if you will, because I'm getting into the final part of this. When we're talking about accountability, one key thing to remember is this is a question that has to be answered every single generation. Why? Because man has a sinful nature. So while we may change the tools, human nature doesn't change. And it's the good among us that keep the bad among us in check. Right? So we have to ask this question on a regular basis, because not everything is worth protecting. Right? Not everything needs to come to fruition. We have to know intuitively that we all owe each other something. And we all have that role. And that something we owe each other is deeply seated in the principles of common good, which I'll get into. So here we're talking about accountability and sovereignty. People think of sovereignty as a country being sovereign. But if you're dependent on any particular tool, you cannot function without it. You're no longer sovereign either. Think of, we all can understand or appreciate, if a country is dependent on another country for oil, it's not sovereign. If you're dependent on anything other than yourself 100%, you lose that sovereignty. As soon as you lose that sovereignty, you lose the power to help control that issue. And so it becomes a dependency issue. Think about when you have to take public welfare benefits. Think about the dependency that creates, because if you go 1 penny over in a month, you're completely cut off from that benefit, even though you're not ready to pick up your own individual.
And they'll even force you to pay the whole thing back.
Yeah. Right. So you lose your sovereignty every single time. It's no longer a tool, it's a weapon. And that's
as we all know, everybody knows this.
Right.
Or certain.
So you got financial, technological, institutional. Almost any story of sovereignty fits in one or more of these buckets. But the more dependent you become, the less sovereign you become, which is why I think it's important to talk, and I'm trying to rush through because we're getting late, the sovereignty test. You can actually do this for yourself. Who controls it? Can it be replaced? If it were to go away tomorrow, would I survive? Can it be disconnected? Can I unplug it and be okay? According to Tulsi Gabbard and Russ Vought, they can't unplug Anthropic. It's too integrated. Creates a national security risk. That's a dependency issue, right? Can operations continue if it goes away? You know, that's a question you can ask for yourself, but also see that they had to put an exemption in to the executive order to blacklist Anthropic because operations can't continue if it goes away. That's a moral hazard. It's also a governance hazard. The big deal is, can it be audited? And I wanted to spend a little time on that because we can audit publicly. You're going to love what's coming, Sean. Just hang on to your hat. Because it leads us into questioning, how do we govern the ungovernable? How can you hold local institutions or even national institutions? How can they continue to hold oversight over a global system, right? If you've got a local institution dependent on the federal institution, dependent on the global system, where does the sovereignty sit? right? And that's a valid question,
Right.
you know, because that's a question most people asked. Because, like I said, a sovereignty is something that everybody can look at and say to themselves, am I dependent? And question themselves. But this takes it to a different level, because one of the biggest questions you've got to answer is, how do I do this when the system's global? Well, you actually got power. You have the power to leverage. If you're in a national procurement position with AI, for example, you got your contract leverage, where you can write in requirements that help you retain sovereignty even over your little ecosphere, right? And so you got all the procurement processes, but even things that require a lot more visibility for public trust can be written in. That's where your leverage exists, is looking for those areas, even at the local level, where you still have the power to control, usually through contract provisions or some kind of purchase, right? But you have the power to control the outcome in some manner. As long as you have that leverage, they cannot completely take sovereignty from you. And that takes me to something I did. So I wanted to see if what I've been presenting makes sense. So I developed, now you know I've been a professor, this is why everybody calls me professor. I used to make rubrics all the time for grading. You know what a rubric is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I used to do rubrics all the time. So I decided to take the principles I detailed here and develop a rubric. And it looks like that. I know it looks complicated, but I took 5 simple parameters. Auditability, you saw this earlier, replaceability, disconnectivity, continuity of operations, and ultimate control. As you saw in a couple of slides ago when I was talking about sovereignty, I had this around a living tree. Remember? That sitting around the living tree, if you've got this in place, your tree can remain healthy. It was the purpose of that slide. So I took that, let me show you again so you can, there it is right there. Okay. You have these principles in place that I showed here, your tree remains healthy. You remove these principles, your tree starts to die.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose of this rubric was to take those things and develop what I believed were sound questions to be asked to check on the governability, all right, the sovereignty test.
On
Low
yourself.
score, on yourself, on any system you buy, anything you buy. You're going to love where this
Anything
goes.
you enter into a contract with.
Right.
Okay.
A low score is very good. High score is very good. A low score is high risk. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready? You think he's ready, Mary, for what comes next?
No. But it's going to
So-
be fun to watch.
It's going to be fun to watch.
We'll
So then
see
I
about
said,
that.
we're asking whether or not AI is still governable.
Uh-huh.
A true test would be if I took this rubric and had the AI systems grade themselves. And so they did. Look at that face. Isn't that a Kodak moment? This is ChatGPT's assessment of itself. It's got a moderate risk. It's based on the rubric I showed you. You can see it: auditability, replaceability, disconnectivity, continuity of operations, ultimate control. It shows itself as a moderate risk. It's saying that there's an increase in dependency.
This all right, this is a grading system to grade your level of sovereignty as a threat to the system.
No, this is grading the system's threat. Yes, you said it
Sovereignty.
differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
So ultimate control. So when you have, this shows if you have ultimate control over yourself. In other words, who decides these users choose whether to use outputs, human approval remains possible. This shows that you are a moderate risk to the system.
No, ChatGPT is a moderate risk to your sovereignty.
Oh.
To us as a society.
because the internal reasoning
Oh.
is not visible. You don't know how the system comes up with its information. Model weighs out publicly accessible information, and you don't know what those parameters are.
So
And then over here, your skills may apply if over relied upon, and the risk of dependency, because the more opaque it gets, the more dependent you get. The risk of opacity
all right, so
on the system increases your dependency. You tend to rely on
so
it
let's
versus
simplify
you.
this for a second for anyone out there who maybe this might be even lightly going over your head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at number 3, disconnectability.
Right here.
So let's use that one as an example. I think
Mm-hmm.
what that means, what you're suggesting here, is your ability to shut off TikTok, your ability to shut off YouTube, right, at will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you succumb to the doom scrolling? But if you have an ability to shut it off, put your phone away, then you or the system is a low risk to you.
The system is. And this is strictly Chat GPT. It's saying you can turn it off, or the capability is to completely disconnect it. It's saying that it can be prohibited at the organizational level. Your job can say, we will not allow Chat GPT. Services can continue whether or not Chat GPT is actionable. So even if you took Chat GPT away today, you can still continue without it. And there's no permanent dependency required.
Okay.
That's what this is saying. So Chat GPT, number 3, disconnectability, is a low risk to your sovereignty. Where they say there's moderate risk is continuity of operations.
Okay.
Over here at auditability and ultimate control.
Oh, now it makes
And
sense.
it's more because you can't see behind it.
Okay, that makes sense.
You don't know how it's deriving its information.
What's that,
I
man?
was going to say that goes back to Elon's thing that he's been talking about for
Unplug it,
5 years
right?
about OpenAI and different things, and why he kept saying everything had to be open source. You had to be able to see the code. This is exactly why.
It's a part of the procurement effort in a lot of things, and I added that on a slide actually.
Yeah.
Here is this I find fascinating.
Interesting.
This is Gemini 3. Gemini 3, if you go to Google Chrome and you do a search and you click the AI mode, this is what you get.
I have Gemini now, yeah.
So Gemini 3 actually failed itself.
Wow.
But it's Google.
Does that
It's Google.
suggest it has integrity?
No, it's all it's doing is weighing those questions in the procurement test.
Oh.
It's weighing these questions.
You tested Gemini. Wow.
I tested all 3 of them.
That's great.
He's just getting it, Mary. He's just getting it.
Google is so embedded in everything.
yeah.
I think that plays into how it failed, because it's so deeply embedded, even in your calendars, your email, your from YouTube on down. It's not just the platforms.
Right.
Did you
But the
hear
other
that
part
they
of
want to
this-
release mosquitoes, by the way?
Yeah, I saw that. Gemini, though, the biggest reason why it failed itself is because it is 100% cloud dependent.
Interesting.
So that was one of the things. They also did something different that the other 2 systems didn't do. It went through, okay, so what did I do? I uploaded this deck. I uploaded my article that I wrote last week. I love that
Which is
article.
super great. I do recommend people read it.
And I uploaded the links for both encyclicals, Pope Leo the 13th and 14th. And I said, okay, you're an AI system. Grade yourself on this tool. And I put in the picture of the rubric that I developed. Grade yourself. And this is what it came up with. What was interesting is ChatGPT went further than the parameters I gave, looked at what I uploaded, and actually tested itself against Pope Leo the 14th's paradox.
Now that's interesting.
I found that interesting.
Yeah. So it took the initiative and went extra.
It took a bit of initiative.
Okay.
And I think the initiative isn't that it took the initiative. It was looking at everything I gave it.
Wow. Thank you,
Whereas-
Samini, for the $5 rumble rant, by the way.
Thank you. Whereas obviously ChatGPT stuck to the rubric only. Okay.
Okay.
So it fails itself. Then I go to Grok. Grok didn't even return the 0 to 15 score. I had to normalize that to a 10.2 out of 15 or a 10 out of 15. I had to normalize that score. Grok came up with its own scoring assessment.
Grok had to
Look-
be remade.
Yes, look at where it shows itself as a high risk.
Yeah.
Accountability and sovereignty.
Mhm.
Why? And the biggest reason for the sovereignty issue was because people are relying on it too heavily and treating it as the expert.
Yes.
Don't you find this interesting?
Which I don't get, because it's just a resource. It just provides the resources that it
I
accumulates
think it
through
comes
X.
down to, if you don't mind my saying, it comes down to we've been beaten over the head for decades that we're too stupid to understand what's going on. So we're looking for that better than us expert to help us understand. AI comes out and is like, there, bingo, we got the tool, which
Think
is
of it
not
like
true.
Sean, AI tools have replaced Wikipedia when you're talking to normies with the fluoride stare.
Right.
That's literally it. The
So-
AI tool has now replaced Wikipedia because I have
Here-
the same argument with them.
Wow.
One of the
okay.
things I found interesting, which I think is something that really needs to be talked about, all three systems said the same thing. Capabilities advancing faster than accountability.
Fascinating.
All three of them said the exact same thing, regardless of the score they gave themselves. They're all saying this. So to me, that's revealing, because you got three different organizations, three totally different architectures, and you got remarkably similar concerns,
And
right?
Chet, Grok is the newest of those three, right?
Yes.
Like Grok is what, a year, two, maybe
Yeah.
3 years now.
3?
Yeah. The lesson here, though, is not that capability and accountability are not the same thing. I want to point that out. What the lesson is here, and it's to me useful, is that these tools are getting increasingly integrated into society,
Yep.
and now's the time to enter into the discussion.
And yeah, the timing is perfect.
Right.
Musk believes that AI by this time next year will be at AG. Or is it IG? AG, I think.
AG.
Yeah.
Agenic.
Which
I
is,
don't know that that's true.
Which is like, I mean, we're talking.
Let me explain something, because I don't think it's agenic, and I don't think
Talking about
getting there.
non-public ones, like would he be talking about like Anthropic and ones that are embedded in the background that we don't deal with?
I feel like he meant it in general, that
No,
it'll
I
be
think
at
he meant
general
in general.
intelligence. Next year, Musk says, for anyone who doesn't understand AG, next year Musk is predicting that AI will be at general intelligence, not your high school level, and then 2 years from now will be college level.
It'll
No,
reflect, but I disagree with that. Let me explain why I disagree.
Mhm.
Because general intelligence is subjective. As people
Yep.
are more informed, that intelligence level goes up. So what does general intelligence mean? What intelligence means today is not the same thing it's going to mean a year from now.
Well, in which country are we talking about?
Exactly.
yeah, that's a good point.
So I think it's a subjective parameter. I really do.
I would agree.
What I'm interested in is, does AI get to the point where it replaces human decisions?
Yes.
That's the bigger risk. That's the bigger story. So I want to observe something here. First of all, one of the things you want to know is, can it still be governed? Remember, that's the title of this deck, is can it still be governed? The fact that these three AI systems actually filled out the assessment tells you the answer is yes. It's taking human direction. The fact that Gemini failed itself against a rubric I developed is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So we're not yet at the point where AI takes over, number one. Number two, I've tested the theory many times in at least two of the systems. I will put in an idea. I want to write an article about, and I'll put in the idea. Give me 5 key points I need to cover. And then I'll take it from there and say, now I want to make a presentation, a slide presentation. Give me 15 slides. to make this topic work. And every single time I get a very plushy propaganda piece and I have to push back. If you don't know your subject, it will give you bullshit. It doesn't. I've tested it many times. And as long as it's doing that, what that's telling me is it doesn't have human reasoning at all. Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah. So don't be afraid to engage into a conversation with AI. Because you'll see that the AI, whichever AI you're having the conversation with, will change its mind.
Let me give you a funny, because I read the entire assessment last night in my chat room. And yes, it's recorded for anybody that's from the chat room and didn't listen to it. I had AI then grade me. And I said, okay, grade me on the sovereignty test. Grok comes back with essentially, wait, who are you? Because I hardly use Grok. In other words, I'm not dependent on Grok. Gemini came back with, yeah, no. It saw me more as a partner in research, or using AI as a partner in research, that I came with my own sauce, if you will, and tried to expand it, which is proper use of a tool. Right. ChatGPT said essentially the same thing, but added, essentially, are you kidding me? You argue with me. So obviously I'm not dependent. They all graded me very high on independence.
Oh, okay.
Very high.
That was your measure, was independence. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to make sure, because I think what people mistake dependence is, it's not necessarily, dependence becomes, can you live without it? And they all came back and said, yeah, you definitely can. ChatGPT went a step further and said, will your production slow down? Yes. Because it would.
It would.
I am producing content faster than I've ever produced because I'm able to synthesize it faster with AI, but it's my content. You see what I'm saying? So I'm taking my research and asking it to produce these slides. It's not thinking for me. It's responding to my commands, which means it's 100% governable. And I constantly, it'll come out and say, well, I don't know that that's a good idea for the slide. This word is going to create a conspiracy theory, blah, blah. It goes down this whole, it's like, damn it, shut up, just produce the slide. And it does. So that's where I get into, and I'm coming to a real quick close here, of the story of the common good, because that's what's been missing. If we add the common good back into our story, in education, in work, in our own families, in our homes, within the community, opportunity, then you will see humans flourishing, which is something we haven't seen for over 50 years, right? 70 years. The humans are not flourishing. And those that are doing it by sacrificing those that are left behind.
Yeah.
Right. So we're if we recognize a common good, which is a shared
Boy, that sounds like a elitist mentality right there, though.
Right. There's 4 pillars to a common good: dignity, shared responsibility, strong communities, and institutions actually serving people. It's not individual, and it's not state control. And without a doubt, you never centralize power, which is the warning of 100 years of encyclicals, is power was being centralized.
You could argue that was the warning all the way back in Rome.
Yes, I would agree with that. So the 4 pillars.
I like this slide.
Yeah.
It's a happy slide.
This is literally Catholic social teaching on a slide. The 4 pillars of the common good: dignity, subsidiarity. What does that mean? That means when you've got a problem, you make the solution
Simple.
accountable to the lowest level possible to fix it.
Simplify it.
Now, think about what's been happening. Let's take welfare, since I brought it up. We pay our taxes, it goes to the federal government. The federal government takes in all those dollars, and then it reappropriates those out to the states, right, on a monthly basis.
Supposedly.
Well, it does.
It's supposed to.
It reappropriates to the states on a monthly basis. The states then dole it out as needed. But I defy people to say that they're seeing those welfare dollars come back to their communities. Something's changed,
Yeah.
which is why we got all these fraud investigations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm getting at is subsidiarity is lost. Everything is going up above us to be fixed. Therefore, we have less visibility.
Yep.
You bring that back and you go a long way to fixing it. If you just add the principle of human dignity, there wouldn't be homeless in your community.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Think
Yep.
what an impact it would have on addiction.
Yep. Oh, gosh. I'll never forget being 5 or 6 years old and seeing my first panhandler, how much that shocked me.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned about the term dignity and what that means. I couldn't conceptualize, but just doesn't this individual care about how he or she is perceived in public?
What if they don't have the tools to be able to do that?
Well,
This is
it
where we
was
have-
encouraged.
This is where social responsibility comes in because we are responsible for each other.
But the system enabled it. The,
The
system enabled him.
because we stopped demanding it too. I remember
fair.
getting into an argument with somebody
That's fair.
saying, I don't need to send my education dollars to DC.
Right.
I should be able to send them straight to my community.
Yep.
Right. And this young girl, very, communist minded,
Yep.
said, no, DC needs to control the flow of those dollars. Well, if that were the case, then my schools wouldn't be degraded
Yes.
if it were working.
So, how about the fact that when you want to bring trombones or musical equipment because you want to you support the music class, the claim is they don't have the money for it.
Right.
How is that even possible?
Well, I can remember, my kids are your age, but in the beginning, they went to school on the first day of school. Now they go to school with 2 shopping bags full of shit because my tax dollars, which is half of my property taxes, aren't covering the basics of pencils and paper.
That's just
Property taxes keep going up.
mind
And
blowing.
yet the property taxes are through the roof.
Mind blowing.
I think that might be a wake up thing for people. At least a lot of people I've noticed
Right.
in the last few years are really waking up to taxation because they look around and their schools are worse.
The roads are worse. The schools are worse. Homeless is bad.
Potholes, everything. And they're like, what are you doing with my money?
Here's a
Don't you
question.
want more? Oh, hell no.
to your point, which schools, which district in America is the highest paid or receives the most in taxes? Which school district in America receives the highest, the most in taxes?
Either Arlington or Fairfax County, Virginia.
Baltimore.
Yeah, okay.
I knew it would be a blue one.
Baltimore. And which
Well, they're all
school
3
has
blue,
the
just so you
worst?
know.
Which school has the worst education in the country?
Is
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Thank you, 412, for the raid. I see you coming in, buddy. Thank
Adel.
you. Good to see you, Adel.
Shout out to Adel. Welcome in, Patriots. Thank you for the raid, brother.
He had Duppy on.
And he did? Really?
I clicked over and gave him a red pill when we started.
Who's this Duppy character?
I don't know.
He's a pain in the butt.
He's a pain
Yeah.
in the butt. Yeah.
He's got to hang up on celery.
Yeah, he's got a big, he's corky
So
for
I
celery
think-
dorky. But shout out to Samini, by the way, over in Rumble for a $5 Rumble rant. God bless you, Samini. Good to see you, and thank you for the support. Also, thank you to Victoria for the banger shades over there in Pilled. I hope I didn't forget anybody else. If I did, I truly apologize.
I got him pulled up if you want to.
I think I got him. Jax
Yeah.
with a can and a cookie. Thanks, brother.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, keep going, Mayor. Feisty.
Okay, so everything I've been leading towards is we have power within ourselves.
More power than we realize.
Than we realize.
Yeah.
As parents, we set the moral values, right? We may use our religious institutions to bolster them or support them.
As a guide.
It comes from your own home.
Right.
So when you look at where that goes, many of us are in the business community, maybe even business leaders. You create value by carrying that into the businesses. Our faith leaders, now that under the first Trump administration, they upended Johnson Amendment, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So now your faith leaders can start talking. If they're not, you have every right to say, why aren't you talking about this? Teachers and educators, if your teachers are teaching something that goes against your principles, I don't care what your school board does or says. You have every right and absolute responsibility to confront
It's
that.
your responsibility. And I would
Right.
encourage you to be assertive about it. You go to a board meeting or you go to one of those city council meetings and you voice it and they threaten to arrest you if you don't
Shut up.
abide. Guess what? No, you have to remind them who pays their
You pay
salary.
their salary.
Right. You have to remind, and it's again your responsibility to remind them this. The reason they have felt so emboldened all these years is because nobody's held their feet to the flame, the proverbial flame that is.
But I will also submit, because we aren't holding our own feet to the flame. It starts in the home.
Yes.
And if you don't recognize your own responsibility, all the others begin to fail. It's the same cascading effect.
Yeah.
Because what happens at the federal level is a microcosm of what's happening right there in your home. So I'm just saying that the whole idea of personal responsibility, no more, he made me do it. One of my favorite stories in the Bible. Adam, did you eat the apple? The woman you gave me made me eat the apple. Eve, why did you do it? The serpent you left in this garden made me eat the apple. They never took personal responsibility.
That's right.
What did it become? The fall of man. So if you can't take personal responsibility and God didn't grant Adam and Eve any special dispensation, I don't know what to say about you.
I think I learned the older I get, the idea of taking personal responsibility is more or less so that you actually learn from it, whether it is somebody else's fault or not. Whether
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. The idea is so that you ensure that it doesn't happen again. Right.
Yeah.
This is the same concept.
Not only ensure, but also remember, good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people.
Right.
Right. Bad things happen to good people. Maybe not for that person, but for those around them to learn something as well.
Right. The same thing with
And the
forgiveness.
only
by the
way
way.
that you actually make that constructive is if you actually have open conversation,
Yeah.
open dialogue.
Right. Yeah. It's the same concept. The way I see it for forgiveness. That the forgiveness isn't necessary.
That's a little elusive for me. I will admit.
I get it, but it's a work in progress, right?
I'm working on it.
I know. It's been one of the most liberating things I've ever learned in my entire life. Was it difficult going through the process? Sure. Afterwards, I'm like, that was the easiest thing in the world, actually. I can't believe how complicated I made it in my head. The idea is to surrender this need for control. Or to stop allowing others to control you. When you learn the concept of forgiveness, you want to talk about taking back your sovereignty? Holy cow. I know it's hard for a lot of people to conceptualize, but
Right.
when you have an evil act, commit that evil act against you, how do you continue allowing that evil act to possess that power over you? By not forgiving it and living in it and marinating in it for so long, right? But when you learn to forgive it, you have released yourself from the power, from the control that it had over you. It's harder to explain. You got to experience it, truly.
I
Goes
get it.
living rent free.
Yes.
They do. Whatever it is, it could be something you're mad at yourself about, could be something someone did to you, but eventually you have to heal mentally.
Yes. And I always bring it to light with one simple question, Feisty. Let me ask you this question. Is it a choice to take things personal or not?
It's not so much taking it personal.
Well, no, answer the question.
Wait a minute.
Answer the question.
It is a choice to continue to be angry at the level they went to.
Is it a choice to take things personal?
It's not that it's taking things personal. I've watched other people suffer from the same thing. I'm pissed as hell over what I've watched happen.
Mayor, is it a choice?
I've had to learn to make it a choice.
It's a choice.
I don't want to. because too many people.
There it is. That's it right there.
I don't
It's
wanna.
because you don't want to.
No, but you're forgetting some of my history, and I am not going
I
to
know.
go through that whole thing. But I was in a position to listen to others go through what I went through, and because of that, I took on a more national role to try to do something about it, and I ended up square, just like Tina Peters, square in the spotlight. The people that I was interfacing with never saw corrective action. In fact, they were even more victimized. And so my anger is over that. Not so much that I was, but that system is in place unimpeded.
Fair.
And so the forgiveness you're seeking from me is a lot more complex, and I'm still very angry, and I still work, by the way, to affect change. I mean, I'm down to where I was personally interfacing with a senator who was murdered about this.
And
So I'm not, this isn't a minor thing.
and what
And
I've
I'm not trying to hang on to old things. But what is true, and that's why this deck is so personal to me, is I know, even if it's a little piece, I know I can affect change at some level.
which is I can't imagine that that contrast what you're going through, because and this is why I offer you, I give you permission to set yourself free from it, and everybody else as well. Set yourself free, release yourself from all of that needless control and being hard on yourself. Because, yes, if I was to say anything, yeah, Feisty is needlessly hard on herself. I don't think people realize just how hard on herself she is. I don't even think she realizes it. But I say this with nothing short of love and respect. But again, my analogy, the way I look at it, if you had evil spewing pure hatred in your face, saying the most vile things, what's it looking for from you? What's it looking
It's looking for me to react.
Yes,
I
it
get
is. What happens when you don't give it the reaction it wants?
Yeah, but Sean, you
what
know
does
me
it
well
do?
enough to know is I don't get even right away. I do get even, though.
The best way to
Okay,
get
that's
even?
a woman thing.
That I think that might be a woman thing.
That's a woman thing. I can tell you it is.
The best,
I can
Vengeance will be mine
hang on
today,
to
it will
it
be
and then
mine.
get sweet
and you're giving it what it
justice
wants,
20 years later.
but you gave it what it
But
wants.
you see, I want the justice to be constructive.
Yeah.
I want the justice to be real.
But we're talking
I
about
want it-
sovereignty, by the way.
But it is sovereignty to continue working towards correcting an injustice.
And I would argue you're still enslaved if you don't learn how to forgive.
Well, that's a different topic.
I love you, Feisty.
And I love you too. Now shut the fuck up.
Touche.
It needed to be said.
Yeah.
So let me end this topic.
Right as you cussed, we got the 100th red pill smash. I watched.
Let's go.
It's okay. There's a couple of people that dropped some donations for the swear jar when I do this.
Oh, that's, we should rename our gold pill of the swear jar.
Pippa nailed it. Those that anger us control us. Well said, Pippa. Yes, I
You know
couldn't
what,
agree more.
Pippa? Good night.
See? Exhibit A.
So I want to end with this. Most of the things we talk about, we didn't create, we inherited.
Yeah.
So regardless of how old the technology is, regardless of how old the law or the rule is, we have to, every single generation, re-ask the question, is it serving the common good? And I think that's one of the things that people forget. Well, that's the way it's always been done. On top of that, we create new forms of power. Are we building on previous forms of power? Or are we recorrecting our destination and realigning power? I think that's a valuable question to ask and then answer. So we have to decide every single generation what the power is being used for. And we have to put it through that new lens every generation. Otherwise, you end up with outdated rules, outdated regulations, outdated laws, outdated systemic issues that people say, well, I didn't build it. Nothing I can do about it, which is a coward. So I'm going to end with this slide. It's not whether or not there's power that exists. There's always been power, and it's a part of our system. The challenge is whether or not we remain capable of governing. For what it's worth, in all of this research that I've done, I looked realistically at our window as it relates to AI, and the same window kept coming up. We've got between 5 and 7 years before that window begins to really close, which makes the public discussion happening right now not only timely, but dare I say, almost coordinated. So that is my presentation, Sean. Did it
Oh,
work?
yes, it did. Are you kidding me? It was absolute fire. And thank you, Mayor, for covering before.
I love hanging out.
What are
I'm
your
always
thoughts,
down.
Mayor?
I like all the attention that's paid to bringing human dignity back.
Mm-hmm.
I want to engage that conversation
Mhm.
larger. I hope that
100%.
we engage it larger. 'Cause
That
I
is
think-
where I'm going with it. I'm going to continue
Yeah.
in this vein.
Yeah, I really do think that's the key to how we fix quite a bit of the mess that we are in.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the anarchist cells and they just want to burn everything down. You have, all the sexual deviancy things that we never used to see publicly. Like I'm sure people did stuff, but like it wasn't acceptable out on the street. The drug paraphernalia, all the things. But the root of that is the degradation of the society, the nuclear family, all of those, as you're referring, norms and conditions, all the things that come from religion. And it's not just Christianity that does that. It's a through. And I used to have wonderful discussions with Herschel. During COVID, he decided to take on a project. He read every religious text, all of them. He read the Book of Mormon. He read all the Hindu books. He read the Quran. He read literally he read like 30 some different ones. He wanted to see what the through line was with all the different religions. It was a fascinating discussion.
That's one of the things I found myself,
Mhm.
and I've used that image a couple of times, and even in this deck today. When you go through all the major religions, they have a principle of do no harm.
Yes.
In every single religion.
Yes.
That's notable because that says that our societies, even at the lowest level, right? Our societies are built on the principle of the common good. We just are not able to see it as the output.
Yeah, throughout time, you have different ones that prayed to, as we commonly refer to them as the gods of Baal.
Mm-hmm.
They did that, and then you could make that same assumption with Aztec and all the different ones. But the through line is sacrifice, blood sacrifice. That's the difference between a lot of the other major religions that you're looking at now. Which, when I watch a lot of the anarchists speak and how they talk, and then I understand that same group that liked blood sacrifice, the similarities are very, very disturbing.
Really?
We have to pull back and get into the norms. That's just my opinion.
Well, the one thing I noticed from anarchists is there's no solutions.
No, it's just burn it all down and kill everybody.
Which is very
And it's
revealing.
instant gratification, which perpetuates all the corruption, because we got corrupt because, well, it's fine. I'll just take my money now. Screw the next generation, which is what we were talking about Feisty. Whereas most of, maybe it was yesterday, most of the long range thinking, like people used to plan 100 years down the road. Now they maybe do 5.
Maybe go 5,
Maybe.
right? And that's the whole idea of black sky thinking.
There you go.
Black sky thinking says you try to the best of your ability, you try to look at a decision you're making today and consider its consequences and impacts 100 years from now. And what that forces you to do is every time you go through your planning process, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you always bring back the black sky to consider the update, to consider, is this still on path or are we going off the rails? We don't even do black sky thinking anymore.
Mhm.
It's not done. I was trained in it, early years of change management. I was trained in it. It's not used. And people look at you and go, what the hell is that?
Well, I should be living proof that you don't need to be biblically savvy. You don't need to be, well versed on biblical teachings or anything like that, or
You
be
don't have
raised
to be
in a
technically
church
savvy.
to understand that. And shout out to impeach them all. That anything contrary to Christ is antichrist, essentially. Which I agree with that. By the way, I like how simple you made it. Knowing
it's
basic right
illogical,
from
right?
wrong. Yeah, knowing basic right from wrong. I'll tell you, one of the things that woke me up to it was just seeing the, this transgender push that, tended to destroy God's creation. What's God's creation? Man and woman in his image. Well, how do you destroy that? Right. So you see people actively higher class, and it does seem like very classism to me. One of their agendas is to cause this divide. But that woke me up to it a long time ago. That and Satanism, the concept of it, and finding out that people actively practice it. Very revealing to me personally. Arguably, what got me here. So shout out to Ira Schultz again. Before we get out, I wanted to play this clip. Shout out to Ira Schultz. That is, it looks like it's this judge, I think, from South Africa.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, let me show you guys this real quick. I think his name is, geez, I just had it. Judge Adrian Fonts, looks like. All right, check this out.
Saying to you that the ANC is an organized crime syndicate, I'm not guessing about it, and I can prove it very easily.
You've been busy about trillions of USD, trillions of dollars meant for development in South Africa and the rest of the African continent. Tell us about that, because that money disappeared as far as I know.
I am appointed on both to recover the control over those assets, because the control was stolen by, amongst others, and let me put it out straight, the Rothschilds.
Okay.
And also the various organizations that they were involved with, which include, amongst others, the Vatican.
Okay.
And the City of London.
Whoa.
And the Federal Reserve System.
I remember the first time you raised this issue and people didn't believe it, but I can see here there are documents and everything. How much change would it have done for the country if that money had been released?
The balance at that time was over 600 trillion.
Oh,
shit.
$600 trillion. Not rand, dollars.
Feisty.
That completely supports everything we've been talking about.
Yep. Absolutely.
Wow.
100%. I would love to talk to this man.
Yep. That's
All of the research, years of research,
Wow.
the exact same thing. We knew Africa was being exploited.
big time.
Ukraine is being exploited right now, and people don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew this was going on.
Yep.
Here's what I find interesting.
The whole is
It's obviously we're at a point where all of this is coming. Remember, you asked me about 4 to 6 lost forever, and
Yep.
I said I believe the U.S. is the first domino, and then you're going to see a cascading effect.
Yep.
He's giving you insight that Africa is part of the cascade, where they're going to release some of this stuff as well.
That's going to make it impossible for them to come back. I mean, I would argue
How
it's already
does
there,
any
but
system come back when you got these
You don't.
major countries being a part of this?
you don't. Damn. Ira Schultz, thank you for that clip. That you just sparked my interest in this individual, and
I would love to talk to him.
Ira Schultz says he's pretty open and willing to join in conversations or interviews.
That would be such a great.
Yeah, I mean,
discussion.
again, I'd much rather have a conversation than an interview. I'm not particularly fond of interview style stuff, but that would be hell of interesting. Thank you. Good looking out, Ira Schultz. And by the way, thank you to Hutchie. Look at this $20 Rumble rant from Hutchie.
Let's get ready to
Hutchie says, thank you, Feisty. Human dignity is the key then, so basic. I pray that we are capable of keeping that as the main focus for our future success. Yes, let's continue to pray for that. That is a great thing.
It's a loft. That's what we actually, you don't pray for it, you embolden it.
100%. And then this was, I promise everybody I played this before we get out, and then we're going to raid Johnny after this. So, guys, this is the clip you and I were talking about earlier, Feisty, about Jamie Dimon.
That was such a great clip.
His reaction to the Clarity Act and what that is going to provide.
Right.
The one thing I did ask myself was, could this be any sort of theatrics that he's playing? Maybe he's...
There's a possibility.
Yeah.
But you never get rid of your bad guy when you're trying to get across the finish line. Right?
Yeah.
And if Jamie Dimon gets us across the finish line, I don't care if he's good or bad. Let him continue his role, because this is something that actually changes the trajectory of our future. Is fixing the money system.
And again, the timing of...
is amazing.
Can you... Is there a very quick synopsis of the Clarity Act for anyone just who aren't familiar with it?
So the Clarity Act puts in guardrails around what qualifies as a stable coin. And it gives it the idea of it being money, and it's backed 1-to-1 with the dollar, and it allows for a parallel monetary system. I think that's where the real question is you're asking. It's allowing for a parallel monetary system because the blockchain is on an immutable record, right?
Which we arguably already have that, but it's not regulated.
No, it's
not
like
the Wild Wild West.
And it's not truly immutable.
Right. This is why scams, people create these cryptos that are scams, right? But this will prevent that.
This prevents that because it determines what is and is not a stable coin.
Right.
And so with a paired system, each keeps the other honest.
Yep.
So you can no longer manipulate the known monetary system. So we're not getting rid of fiat. We're not getting rid of the Federal Reserve. We're cleaning it up.
Decentralized.
Making sure that there's an internal cross-check, right?
Yes.
And so that's the big deal. And why are the banks so upset? Well, they've been able to take your money for decades, invest it, make interest off of it.
Yep.
And then charge you if you don't have the minimum
and
balance,
charge
right?
you. Yes. Oh my gosh. Infuriating. But this is Jamie Dimon's reaction to this question.
Which is hysterical. I
The
love
banks are panicking. He said he's representing the whole industry. He's full of shit.
He said he's representing the whole industry.
Full of shit. The CEO of JP Morgan just said, what?
So are you happy with the way the Clarity Act is turning out?
No.
Hold on, Sean.
because
You got to understand who he said was full of shit. He's talking about Armstrong, representing the whole industry of blockchain.
Oh.
Okay. And her question led him to say that guy's full of shit. Okay. Now you can go into the rest.
Did I start it too late?
Them to effectively pay interest on deposits, stable coins, or something like that. So no, the banks will not accept it that way. And the ABA, the small banks, the credit unions, it's not just the big guys. I'm not worried about stablecoin, but if it happened, I'm telling you, I would have nothing to do with it, and it would eventually blow up on its own.
Well, the markup is coming. I mean, what are you going to do about it?
It is. We'll fight it. If we lose, we lose, and we'll live. No one's going to bow down
That's
to this
key,
guy,
by
okay,
the
or
way.
that company. And he's the only one.
Yeah.
And
What's key?
If we lose, we lose.
He's talking about the banks.
He's talking about stopping the Clarity Act.
Yeah.
They're going to fight passage of the Clarity Act. If we lose, we lose.
Yeah, that's what I said. He's talking about the banks.
Well, he's supporting the banks.
Yeah, that's what I said.
They're against Armstrong,
Right.
who's supporting the crypto industry.
Right. Which is going to give banks a run for their money.
But the purpose of what I'm saying
Pun
is
intended.
his comment is really revealing.
Yeah.
Because he's saying we're going to fight it whether we win or lose.
Yes. Okay.
We're just going to throw everything at they're running out of options.
And I don't see why you can't put shadow banking in that same category.
Well, shadow banking gets corrected by definition.
Right.
It's already started with the SOFR transition, But what's really interesting here is they use the interest rate on stable coins as a block, and they're losing, which is why he's losing his shit.
Meaning they'll lose their power.
Spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's a revenue model.
This thing.
He said he's representing the whole
He's
industry.
full of shit.
Well,
So the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, is upset about the fact that the rules in this upcoming legislation called the Clarity Act don't favor his business. Well, in reality, what's going on here is that the banks are in a little bit of trouble. Let me explain why. Banks don't like competition because it means they have to compete. And this legislation that's coming up is basically creating a much more competitive landscape for all of the financial industry. Here's how it works. You take your money and you give it to the bank. The bank takes that money and then they go and lend it out, or they buy U.S. Treasuries, which is essentially just a loan to the government. Well, when they're doing that, they might earn 350 basis points or 3.5% on that money that they've lent. But now they're going to give you a little tiny little piece of that, maybe like 0.5%. But with stablecoins, this new innovation in the payments and banking world, you would actually be able to give them the same amount of money, but potentially get something closer to like 3% instead of 0.5%, because the business models are completely different. A bank, sure, they take your money and they go out and lend it to other people, but they also do a lot of other things. They have credit cards, they have all these different lines of business, whereas a stablecoin provider does only this one function. And so because of that, you get to where really there's no reason for the end user like you and I to really go to the bank when we could get way more on our money by just going to these stablecoin providers. So Jamie Dimon, he's a little bit salty about the way that the bill is moving, and it's no surprise. That guy that Jamie Dimon is talking about in this video is the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, who has been in DC doing his best to make sure that stablecoins are able to actually pay out some form of yield. But for him to say that about Brian Armstrong is pretty crazy. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that like button and follow us for more updates about what's going on.
Let me take something out of the deck I just did, if you don't mind. And I told you you were learning how to not float when Mary and I were talking about this. I was talking about the Graham-Steagall Act that separated banking from investment. Mm-hmm. And the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act came in and removed those protections. I don't know that people have thought about this, but a bank-issued credit card is exactly what this guy was talking about. Mm-hmm. It's a form of investment, right? By the banks. Mm-hmm. They're going to give you money. They're making back the interest. You never quite pay that debt off.
Right.
It's a revolving debt.
Yeah.
But it's you can consider it a short-term loan if you pay it off every month, but it's a long-term investment by the bank because you never quite pay it off.
Right.
And then they just keep screwing with the interest.
And they just keep playing with it. Now, there is...
And making money off the interest.
There's old laws on the books to prevent usury, which is above 30%. I don't know how many people have noticed, but your credit card interest rate stops where? 29.99%.
Mayor, I just realized you got another show you got to go do. I feel bad for keeping you this late.
Don't be.
Thank you both for joining.
Mary, absolutely, thank you so much.
Yeah, we might need to make Mayor Bear a staple of Feisty Diggs.
I can't do that to her. She's got things in her life too. If she can, wonderful.
I'm happy to come whenever you guys call. Happy to do it.
Well, thank you.
So she's saying you got to call her, Sean.
That is part of.
Just consider this
I don't
a formal invitation.
You're not crashing anything.
Just consider this a formal invitation. If you're available, you want to join, John, I'm available today. Link.
Okay. There you go.
See how easy that is?
Put the responsibility on her. Talk about shifting.
He's very sly, that one.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to come, I'll be with S. Jones. I'm going to be... We've gotten into a thing where we're simulcasting, so it's on her channels and also on mine. So
shout out to S. Jones.
Really fun. Shout out to S. I love Bean. But it's also fun because there's 4 chats open and people rotate through the chats. And
that's cool.
That's kind of fun too. So we're doing a dig on Hassan Piker.
Oh,
Pink That's what we're doing at 7:30. So
Yeah, that guy's literally crying these days.
I know. I've got a bunch of clips.
And apparently, Mayor Bear has the skills to make Feisty snort. You're welcome anytime you want, Mayor. Anytime you want.
Anytime.
So
you
that's I try to
about Java.
launch Sean, and you try to get me snort, and we now have a permanent look-see to see if either happens. Thank you, guys.
All right, ladies. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you both soon.
Have a good day, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night, ladies. Thank you. Shout out to Mayor Bear and Feisty. This is another episode of Feisty Diggs, episode 45 in the books. We're going to go raid Johnny Boy. Thank you all for joining. I'll be live tonight. America Rising News, 9:30 p.m. Be there, be square, over at America Rising Media. So please show some love to our amazing, beautiful, badass mods, if you could, please. And again, I'll see you all later tonight and this. It's going to be jam-packed, guys. A whole lot of news tonight to be discussed. God bless. Stay safe. Stay dangerous, Patriots. We got this.
Whispers in the static, questions in the fire. The veil is torn and the seeker never tired. Scrolls of the ancients carved into stone. She reads between lines while the empire grows. The priesthood of medicine, prophets of law. She claws through the curtain, exposing the flaw. No map, no guide, just shadow she tracks. Every thread pulled is a world turned back. The faithful will know, though the words may be few. To the blind, every truth is a riddle untrue. Claws of reason, eyes of flame, unmasking the player in the shadow game, where the silence breaks, the hidden shade. She names the unspoken, the world away. Historians' eye on the ruins of men, cycles repeating again and again. Digital soldier, a phantom, a spark, a voice through the wires ignites the dark. Voice of iron, breath of dust, pierced in the empire built on rust. Keeper of the flame, she stakes her claim, illuminates the nameless, calls them by name. Through Babylon's towers, through Rome's broken gates, she carries the question that history hates. No creed, no tyrant, no mask will remain. When the feisty one whispers your true name. Claws of reason, eyes of flame, unmasking the players in the shadowed game, where the silence breaks, the hidden shakes. She names the unspoken,